The college football experience week 7 preview picks and draft for 2024 episode is on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and it's brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 100 times the amount of money you enter with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Merch Sale. Yes, 15% off everything in the SGPN merch store. You want yourself a college football experience t-shirt, hat, Stadium Heads brand new podcast hat, t-shirt, whatever. It's all out there. So hop on over there, 15% off everything with the promo code SGPN May.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Week 7, 2024 preview picks and draft episode. We got news coming in. It feels like college football season, folks. We are that close to team previews coming. 134 episodes for 134 teams. And that's not including the FCS college football experience, which will go through every single conference, which essentially is every team. We're covering all 261 teams. But yes, this is the FBS show. And yeah, we got the previews coming. So buckle up. We got schedules. We got announcements. All that good stuff, folks. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swig at Database Dad, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes, college football season's year round on the college football experience. Hop on over to YouTube. You can watch this show, youtube.com/the college experience. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Shout out to the chat. They're rocking along. Robert Martin was in here early talking about Western Carolina. And then we're getting all the Western Carolina fans because Weehawks in here saying we have Modelo visible. What else is everyone drinking this Memorial Day? Happy Memorial Day. Justice Perfect. Joe Hackney getting caught up with the Stadium Heads podcast. Go check those out. Me and Michael Barker, a.k.a. College Football Campus Tour, breaking down all the stadiums in college football and what makes college football the greatest goddamn thing that America has to offer. All right? I am joined by my co-hosts. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh.
I mean, I saw Ric Flair get kicked out of a bar in Tampa. That bar should be shut down, in my opinion. You don't kick Ric Flair.
That was recently, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was. He could have came to my wedding, punched me in the face, and I would have went and got him a cocktail.
At what age group do we think the love for Ric Flair is no longer as strong?
Never. I think that's one of the guys that figured out life. Ask Halle Berry. But yeah, if you don't know that story, the internet is available for all.
Do the youngsters inherently understand his greatness just by looking at him? They should.
They should.
With feathered, beautiful hair like that.
I'm telling you, whoever that manager and bartender were that kicked him out, they got a lot of explaining to do.
Yes,
all right.
Remember that time I had the chance in Raleigh to go to a Kmart and get his autograph, but I didn't.
What an asshole.
True story.
So
It was
he
like
missed
right
opportunity.
across
Yeah.
the street from where I was working too. But I was like, I'm busy.
I mean, and to me, if you're hitting the Kmart's, that's what I'm talking about. Hard working son of a
Well,
gun right
there's
there.
got to be a
Right?
way those guys made those fantastic outfits. I
I
know
bought
they
a lot. I
were.
bought a shit ton of the starting lineups at Kmart back in the day. I can tell you that. NC Nick, you remember where that Kmart was? All right.
Are you sure it wasn't a Toys R Us?
No, it's Kmart.
Yeah.
It's Kmart over in Herndon, right next to
I
where I
got
got my
you.
haircut.
That's a
It was by
fine
your house, actually.
fine
Yeah.
item
Yeah.
to get from Kmart. A starting lineup used to be kind of a baller purchase. Back in
It
the-
still is in my mind.
That's true.
Still is in my mind. If my wife wants to win me over, it's like I'm pretty simple. It's like okay, you can give me some bourbon or something, and I'll be happy, or some form of liquor to a certain extent, or something ECU related. There's like 5 things that make me happy. I'm basically a 40-year-old version of a 5-year-old. So, but look, this guy. Give it up for the third man in the booth, the DFS guy himself, the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making, tobacco living, a free lot giving, farmer, heard the basketball league MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's going on, guys?
That's what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Yes. That song is just beautiful.
It is.
Play that at my funeral, Patty C, please. And I am making the assumption I go before you. Don't ask me why.
I don't know
But,
about that. I think Pat's the odds-on favorite to drop dead first.
It's true. It's true. There's actually it's at -110 that he dies on air. All right.
You know what?
I
I feel like the people that drink a lot usually are the ones that live the longest. I don't know if that's always true. Maybe that's just what I tell myself. But
well, it depends. I think what you're drinking. I think if you do more liquor, I think you're okay.
no,
Really?
disagree. What is more likely to get you killed, Nick? I guess over time, beer is going to add up more.
All I know is I used to bartend on Madonna's cardiologist, right?
Yeah.
And I used to be like smart ass, and I was like, hey, a cardiologist buying her all of her doctors that worked under her a round of martinis and stuff. They would drink martinis mostly. I would just be like, what are you doing? Isn't this like, against with what you, and she's like, actually, no, a lot of my studies say now to have a martini,
Well, sure,
a day,
the glass of wine thing.
Yeah, like no, the wine she actually pushed back on. She said there's too much sugar in wine. She said like vodka and I think it was tequila, because even gin I think has too much sugar and rum has too much sugar. But
Vodka and tequila.
I think that's
What about
she said.
shotgunning IPAs?
That I didn't get to that point with her, but I think I have her name, so I can look her up and ask. Maybe I give her a phone call one night. How do you feel about? Does the heart really suffer from shotgunning IPAs?
I used to live with a personal trainer, and she did a thesis paper on the benefits of surpassing the lactic acid threshold. And basically like fucking yourself up really bad and like working really hard.
This is good
I feel like that's what this does. I feel like you really have to go over the top, and your body is challenged by it. I'm working out every time I shotgun one of these things. You guys are
you come
watching
home,
me.
you come home and say, honey, just got back from the gym.
That's right.
All right, let's go.
Just
Well,
slamming beers.
Patty C, hopefully this year you can shotgun another IPA to keep yourself in shape, basically.
Oh, thank you.
The fans are going to demand it whether you want to admit it or not.
I'm the healthiest man alive.
There we go. We do have a little bit of news before we dive into Week 7 slate. We got what? Penn State talking about retractable roof. I'm telling you, the college football it's on borrowed time. As much as I love college football,
Boy,
it's on borrowed time.
you put Happy Valley in a dome. That's sad.
Here's my thing: it's like you keep getting bigger and bigger. Like the TV contracts are gonna be even bigger. The more money that goes into it, the more ruined it's going to be, in my opinion. And we have a pretty long history of life of things that were great, and you put corporate
Rich
America
douchebags. Yeah.
into it, and it just fucking gets destroyed. But NC Nick, how do you feel about you're a former Penn State fan, all right?
I was a big fan in the '90s, and then a little incident kind of turned me off
yeah.
on the program.
Second mile, you were doing okay.
No, I think it's awful. I think they have a classic, Beaver Stadium, Happy Valley, State College, whatever you want to call it, all the above. They have a classic stadium. When they do a night whiteout, especially if it's in like late October, early November when it's cold, also fantastic atmosphere. And I agree with Colby here. I've watched football in a dome once, Detroit Lions, and I just thought it was weird. It was different. And if they go to some retractable roof, that means whenever they're calling for rain or whenever it's going to be cold, they're going to close the roof, and it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it's like the Soldier Field bullshit they're thinking about doing, or I think they're gonna do. The minute you do that, the minute the sport, like to me, it loses its innocence. To me, like it's gone. It's gone. Like football in a dome. Have you seen a game in the dome, Patty C?
I have seen a game in a dome.
Do you think it hindered your experience?
What dome was it?
Wait, actually, been inside a dome to watch football. I've been in the Georgia Dome to watch a basketball game. That certainly made it worse.
What the hell is that though?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Basketball is inside, unless you're watching. I can't jump.
96 Olympics, but no, I don't know that I've ever been in a dome to watch a game. I probably have, but I'm just not remembering it.
Yeah, I've actually been to a few, and they all suck. But Penn State in a dome, Patty C, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Linebacker, you in a dome?
That's what I'm saying. We're losing it. We're losing it. They better correct that. The pushback better be strong. Other news: we saw Redbird Capital, the same company behind the XFL. With I believe The Rock is involved with Redbird Capital, and Drew Weatherford, the old Florida State quarterback, Weatherford Capital announced the Collegiate Athletic Solutions, a purpose-driven, dedicated capital and business building platform for public and private university athletic departments across the United States. Now, originally, I thought this was horrible because I thought, man, private equity. I know we have the Florida State situation, Saudi Arabia State, but I just thought. But
Miami,
they're saying it's not private equity. This is private capital, specifically if you want to like. And it's kind of an interesting model. I haven't done a huge deep dive on it, but I was looking at it some, and it's basically just kind of loaning money with the payment plan over like 20 years.
Well, what's the difference? Equity would be. I mean, that's a fucking term I don't even understand in the first place. But that's like having a house.
Is that a D3
right?
school?
Yeah, equity. Having that's like what owning essentially having collateral value.
Well, I don't get but
capital versus equity, they're both financial backing.
But apparently there's like limitations to this. Whereas private equity, like if you look at what it's done to the newspaper industry or pretty much every industry, I think it's fucked it up because they'll do anything to make money out of it. You know what I mean? Like you basically whore itself. They have no ties. Essentially, they don't care.
So pretty soon it's gonna be like the NBA, where like Michigan has some bank logo on the front of their jersey.
Yeah, they're just whoring themselves. Yeah.
So I mean, but in general, I don't know. But then at the same time, if you're sitting there and if you're fucking Arizona State has financial problems, or if you're whoever,
UCLA.
Those are power schools. But I also feel like if you're just sitting there and you're fucking Troy, and you want to just say, hey, let's take a big loan out if we invest and we win, because it's pending. I believe what I was reading was pending the success on a certain percentage is the success that you have, because their business model was basically that the bunch of college football teams that won the national championship over the past 10 years were top 20 in spending. So if you want to be a top 20 spending school, part of 2 or 3 years down there, they take a certain percentage right from the start of what you're bringing in, or at least a couple years in, I think. But further down, once you start making, I guess the 12-team playoff, I would assume, is when they would.
These are like the private equity firms and private capital firms.
This is Redbird Capital's plan with Weatherford Capital.
So they're essentially getting incentivized contracts with the teams in the same way that a player would.
They're looking to do it. I don't think they have any.
So if you win
but
12 games, you're giving them $20 million.
Yeah, I mean,
So
essentially,
that almost incentivizes you not to win games. But I guess if you're going to make
well, no, I would say like if you're a school that's barely, if you're Iowa State, that you look and you see LSU and Alabama always in the top 10. I think Alabama's number 1 every year in spending, right?
Yeah.
Or Texas or something, right? Or
Right.
Texas A&M. You're going to say, hey, if we take this loan out, can you imagine what we could do building in this and you pay it off long term?
Are college teams not doing that now? I mean, when they have like a $10 million stadium enhancement, I doubt if they're paying cash for that. They're probably financing it through a bank, right? What's the difference? I mean, I'm just a schmuck that picks games here. I don't really know exactly what this means.
Yeah, it's a little over my head. I'm not gonna lie.
You're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy, and I'm after you, buddy.
Either way.
Pay for it. Good night.
NC Nick with some strong words to Redbird Capital and the Weatherford Capital.
I would agree that it's just bad to get those guys involved in general.
My part of me was like, it's interesting to me. It's interesting because I think everyone's at this point where you saw with the ruling, players are getting paid all across the board. You got Dabo Swinney still talking about he doesn't use the transfer portal. Everyone's a transfer. They transfer from high school to college. All right.
They transfer from one girl to the next.
He's got some George.
So you said
in
you're
him.
rooting for Clemson now.
Oh yeah, Clemson is the team I want to win the national championship. The more I see, you shared a post today with us.
That was Nick, Tim Albin,
Yeah.
Tim Albin, the head coach for a long time, Frank Solich assistant, head coach of the Ohio Bobcats. He had said that I believe it was how many players in the
2021.
Hold on, let me quote it right here. 21 players from the school's 2022 MAC East title team transfer up and land on either a Power 5 roster or a pro roster. 8 of those to the Big 10, 5 to the Big 12, 2 to the ACC, and 6 to the pro leagues. Here's my thing:
that's a quarter of your roster. Poof.
Yeah, well, that maybe they need some Redbird capital.
Well, it's mostly starters too, I would imagine. I don't think
Yeah.
the Big Ten's looking for the backup safeties. So it's not just a part of your roster. I think it's the most valuable pieces of your roster.
Yeah. Was any of that lost to graduation? Obviously, if they get selected.
No, I think he's referring to Curtis Rourke starts at Indiana now.
Right.
I think
all
some of it
that
is
was-
like the players that have gone pro. I think part of it is just graduation, but a good chunk, and it says the amount of transfers going to each conference. I mean, that's a lot.
You're
Yeah.
still getting destroyed by the transfer portal.
Well, that is happening left and right, but at the same time, for that to be the reason to root for Dabo Swinney, I still find hilarious because it's like he went out and bought Lincoln Riley's brother, Garrett Riley, from TCU after you won the national championship. What's the difference?
The difference is a coach who's an employee, not players that.
They're employees now.
Well, yeah, now that they
That's
are.
what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I just think that it's bad. Part of what makes the sport of college football enjoyable to watch is watching a team develop players, and like we've talked about this before, establishing a bond, with players. If it's a 1 year rent a team every year, that's less fun than
But isn't
building a team.
Isn't it a 1 year rent a coordinator in many aspects?
Well,
Sure,
hold on,
but it's not the entire team.
Colby, you love when there's like one dome team, when there's like one triple option team. Now we have one team that is completely 100% ignoring the transfer portal. It makes it interesting to see.
No,
if
for sure. I'm
and
playing.
I
Devil's
kind of want
advocate
to root
here.
for him now too, because he's the
Well,
he's
you're
the one
ACC
person.
Nick.
It's a little bit, but he's the one person that says that's saying no to it, right or wrong. Probably wrong because his team's last couple of years haven't been as good. But it's interesting because he's the one guy who is completely and utterly not going transfer portal whatsoever.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he doesn't win, he's going to completely skew any like continuity stats and the benefits of continuity, because like typically those would be beneficial to your team. The teams that have been together for the longest.
See, but he was 4-4 in the ACC last year, and
yeah. So right now it's not. He's not like living up to that. That stat isn't holding up. The transfer portal seems to be more important than continuity.
Well, this is my thing. Is like if you look at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz doesn't really go. You don't have to whore yourself out and bring in every player. but there's a clear weakness on Clemson the past couple of years, offensive line or wide out, and they haven't addressed those. You'd only need to bring in like 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you're not gonna. The whole team's not gonna. It's not gonna go crazy here. You made a couple new guys.
Georgia's a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Georgia
Or
brings in-
Michigan, or Ohio State, or Alabama. They pick
Michigan
and
goes
choose.
pretty hard in the portal. Michigan has, but you don't have to, But yeah, I think it's totally.
I mean, Ohio State went pretty damn hard in the portal this offseason.
Yeah. So it's not that you couldn't do that, but like Georgia says, like a lot of these players at these other schools couldn't start at Georgia.
Well, that's what Dabo said at Clemson, which I find to be bullshit.
At this point, yes.
Like I know damn well a bunch of wide receivers that we've seen
They're
could
like
start at Clemson.
50 better quarterbacks than Cade Klubnik in college football right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're telling me Cade Klubnik's better than Cam Ward? I disagree.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway, Clemson, by the way, opening up as a 14-point dog to the Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta.
They're gonna lose that game. I would be shocked.
I was surprised by that early line. I'll tell you that because
That's
that was
a big
like,
one.
a 10-3 game last time they played. Now that
I was
JT
still
Daniels.
expecting double digits. I'm not that surprised by it.
Is Georgia better than they were the last time they?
This is supposed to be the best Georgia team.
Georgia
I think,
won the
ever.
national
Yeah.
championship that time.
Yeah.
So I don't think Georgia is that much better than they were a few years ago when they played.
But
Clemson's worse.
Yeah. Joe Hackney in the chat says if SGPN finances a team, who we are back? You know who that's gonna be. Is that all the news? I can't even remember. There's so much goddamn college football news coming out
There was
right
the
now.
Big 12 and the ACC agreeing to the payment thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
They're gonna everyone's and the poor American East and all these other conferences. I don't know if you looked into that. Like the Missouri Valley and everyone's there. The other commissioners are pissed off. They're saying, wait, we got to front all this money. We didn't have any NIL guys.
Yeah, what I don't understand is that it's backdated. Like they're gonna pay players who have already graduated or have already left.
Yes,
that seems like what? Like I understand moving forward if you want to switch a rule, but you can't go backwards and start paying players in their freaking 30s now, right?
Well, and especially like the small, like I said, someone out of the whack,
Right. They have a
Grand
small
Canyon?
budget as it is.
Yeah.
They have financial constraints as it is.
UC Riverside picks up the phone and says, we owe this much money to what? None of our guys got an NIL deal. What are you talking about?
Wait, yeah, retroactively applying NIL, that could go back like hundreds of years.
No, there's a limitations on it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. They got the maximum that they could. The players.
It shouldn't go back.
Yeah.
It shouldn't go back at all. It shouldn't go back 2 weeks. You know.
Yeah.
But I don't. That's probably a discussion for a different pod. But
I do want to mention this. I couldn't help but see the Big Ten leaning heavy into Fridays as their president announced on Joel Klatt's podcast. I checked out, and they announced the schedule today. There's 2 Big 12 games. The rest are Big 10 games, and then at the end of the year, the Mountain West Championship. Friday nights just got a lot more interesting.
Wait, they announced the whole big noon kickoff.
No, Friday nights.
Oh, Friday night.
Yeah.
Friday night.
So we knew Arizona, Kansas State on Friday, September 13th. And we knew the Mountain West Championship on Friday, December 6th. But now they filled up the rest of the calendar on Friday nights, and I couldn't help but laugh at some of these matchups. Illinois at Nebraska, Friday, September 20th.
Good
I'm
game.
okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with all of these because we want more weekday games. But I can't help but think on some of these like this.
I just glanced at it. I thought it was good at a glance, but go over with
Well,
me.
Michigan State at Oregon, which we didn't draft last week. That's now a Friday game, right?
That's a good Friday game.
No, I agree, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Hang on, let me say all these to make my point. But
Okay.
Washington at Rutgers is another one. Patty C was excited. He did draft that
I
game.
did draft that one. Pretty late. Pretty
This
late.
week that we'll be covering on Friday, October 11th. Northwestern at Maryland. Friday, October 18th, Oregon at Purdue. Friday, October 25th, Rutgers at USC, which has been kind of a pun in the college football world because it's an 11 o'clock kick.
PM Eastern.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those Rutgers fans.
let me know how that one turns out, guys.
Wait, are all of these games East Coast versus West Coast? Or?
Hang on. Iowa, Friday, November 8th, Iowa at UCLA. Friday, November 15th, UCLA at Washington. That one's great. Friday, November 22nd, Purdue at Michigan State. And then the lone other Big 12 game, Friday, November 29th, Utah at UCF, which I personally think the Big 12 has Arizona at K-State and Utah at UCF are the best ones on
Utah
this.
at UCF is kind of fun.
Yeah, those are the best too.
Yeah.
I can't help but laugh when they're like Oregon at Purdue, Michigan State at Oregon. Why couldn't that been Oregon State? You know what I mean? Like that. I have a hard time believing that that's going to draw a bigger number.
Well,
than
but
Oregon State.
but those games wouldn't draw anything on a Saturday.
No, but my point is the Pac-12 would play on Thursdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
So it's like you're replacing this with kind of shit in a way. Now we're going to watch every snap because we love it and we want more weekday college football, but I just find it hilarious that it's like now they move to the Big 10. We're going to have big time prime time matchups.
And they're putting
and
them
here
all
we
on
go.
Friday.
Washington at Rutgers Friday night. Are you excited?
That's true.
Right? And it's like, no, I think Washington Stanford is actually much more exciting than Washington Rutgers. Just call me crazy.
I will say it is pretty funny that they just said welcome to the Big 10, but you motherfuckers on the West Coast are playing every Friday night. you're still doing the Pac-12 thing, even though you're part of the.
Well, they might prefer it as to a noon Saturday kick.
That's true.
You know what I mean? They might prefer it. I'm not
They
sure.
always said with the NFL teams coming from the West Coast, it was like those 1 p.m. kicks were tough because it's really 10 a.m. their time.
Yeah.
All right, folks, you are listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's the biggest week in racing. Yes, the Indy 500. I watched the qualifiers this last weekend. Didn't know that. Bet you guys didn't have that on your bingo card. Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. All these rich millionaires live in Monaco. I'm trying to live in Monaco. The Coke 600.
That's where Princess Grace, back in the day, she was a smoke show.
Where is she? I don't know anything about her.
She's an old actress. Married the Prince of Monaco. Monaco.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Coke 600 going on this weekend. So you got 3 big time races, and Rod and Cody from the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and the F1 Gambling Podcast have you covered. Make sure you join their Kyle Larson diecast car giveaway that's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race. And make sure you subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and the F1 Gambling Podcast. You see that NASCAR fight the other day?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Great, right? Said, go check the tape. I'm going to punch you in the face. Plus, we're running a mega Memorial Day merch sale at the SGPN store. 50% off everything in the merch store. Promo code SGPN May. You can get yourself, spring football guy t-shirt. You can get yourself a college experience hat, Pick Dundee t-shirt, a bet detective t-shirt. We got it all. Sports Gambling Podcast. Get on over there. Check it out. I think you'll dig it. 50% off everything. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right. It is time. Overall thoughts on the week before we dive into all this stuff. This week, very front loaded, I thought. So this is what I mean though, is like, I think I've alluded to this a lot on previous episodes. If you haven't listened to all of our other, drafts for each week, you had some wonderful matchups with this realignment stuff, like Oklahoma going to Auburn or Texas and Georgia play.
And if we're being honest and not being, cynical, Penn State USC this week is a pretty good game.
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying. But the problem is, Patty C, is as we've done this exercise for years, is before I felt like you could really jam pack like 30 good games. Now I find it like, yes, do you have maybe a sexier game on the top between two blue bloods? Sure. But you have a lot of fat in the middle. Like when you get to the 20s now, you're really reaching. I feel like this year doing this exercise, it has been harder for me to come up with 30 good games.
Well, yeah. I mean, so much of what makes college football fun to watch is familiarity and rivalries. And when you jumble shit up and you're starting from scratch on all of the games, it's like, dude, something that made these two 6-6 teams compelling before because they've had this long history is now just two random fucking 6-6 teams playing.
Yeah.
And it makes it suck.
I agree, but as a whole, you're right, Colby. Like, the very top is fire, but the depth is just not there, especially on Saturday. Although
it's week
I will
after
say,
week too, man. It's week after week that I'm just like, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
But week 7 specifically, weekday Nick approves that there is now 8 weekday games. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we're getting to the point of the season where we got a lot more weekday games, and I definitely love that.
Weekday Nick stepping up, and Patty C, you're on the clock for the first pick.
Well, speaking of weekdays, I think the game of the week. No, I'm just kidding. But that's going to be high on my list. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
There is
as-
a
as
weekday
it
game
should
that I
be.
like.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get fancy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. There it is right at the top of the screen. Anyone who's watched this game over the last, 15, 20 years should know you are in for guaranteed entertainment, whether it is what it is 80% of the time, 90% of the time, a fucking crazy dogfight with comebacks and big hits and big plays and excitement, or the occasional absolute ass whooping where fans are crying in the stands. Either way, I find it entertaining. We're talking about Oklahoma, Texas in the Red River Shootout.
Oh, I mean, this is. I'm trying to go back to the first one, but I can't find it. It's like someone hit delete on my. I think it was a pre-thing that we were doing for the. Anyway, Oklahoma, Texas, Nick, the Red River Shootout. You know, I think you can argue it's the best rivalry. Honestly, I know people talk Ohio State, Michigan, or the Iron Bowl, or Army, Navy. I think this is up there with the best. Now there are a couple underrated ones to me. This one kind of gets its proper due, but I almost still feel like it's a little underrated.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best, if not the best, college football rivalry. It's one of the best rivalries in all of sports. So it's an obvious number one play.
Yes.
My question for you guys here, though, sorry to cut you off, is that, now that they're both SEC, do you guys think this game now means more? It means about the same, or it means less?
I actually think that's a good question.
It's a great question.
I think I'd argue
it means less. Yeah.
Because now, like you kind of knew before, like the winner of that was probably going to play in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
They were the two big fish in a smaller pond, but now they're just big fish in a huge body of water. So they're big fish amongst other lots of big fish. So I would say the game might mean actually a little bit less now, but still, though, it's still a fantastic game, fantastic rivalry.
Well, what do you think? This is going to be an interesting thing for us this whole offseason. Will you have you won't have a 4-loss team in the playoff, right?
No. Unless they win a conference, right? Because isn't that automatic?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like in the SEC, what's the like if 3 losses, we're gonna have to.
I mean,
pay
if you
attention to
probably
this moving
look back
forward.
at like the final college football playoff or AP rankings, after 12 weeks or 13 weeks of football, I would doubt you ever see a 4-loss team in the top 12. And really, I guess it's the top 11 if you consider that the Group of 5 team.
But they're going to be
lower.
playing against each other more.
That's true. That is true.
I think we all agree that we'll see 2-loss teams, and we'll probably see a 3-loss team here and there. We're not going to see a 4-loss team though.
Well, I mean, besides the auto bid, right? Because
Right.
I think it's certainly possible in the Big 12 this year.
Oh, it's possible in lots of leagues. Sure.
It's unlikely, but if the likes of Alabama somehow took 4 losses to 4 playoff teams in the SEC, then they might squeak in as a 5th.
So, I mean, you'll have that element to this of, I know Texas already plays Michigan. They get Georgia next week after this week. You would have right there, let's say they lost to Michigan, Oklahoma, and Texas. I'm sorry, and Georgia. You would have 3 losses right there. It's almost like, and then they still have the A&M game. But I don't know. Oklahoma won last year, 34-30. Joe in the chat saying, look ahead line right now. You can get this 10.5 Oklahoma plus 10.5. I'll take the points in these. With the exception of the game where Dylan Gabriel got knocked out
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, remember against TCU, he tried that slide bullshit, and TCU's linebacker just blasted him. It's fucking great. Best moment in recent college football history, in my opinion. Texas has a 12-game lead, but Oklahoma did win last year. Dylan Gabriel magic.
They've been chipping away at that for a minute.
But here you are. Yeah, Texas has only won 1 of the past 6 matchups. So
Jackson Arnold is the big question mark.
they got Casey Thompson too.
Yeah, I guess depending.
He's
on
a former Texas player.
Wow.
That's perfect.
That
That's
is beautiful.
fucking perfect.
There's your
with
storyline
a
if that
couple
happens.
stops in between, but still.
Still, but he started at Texas for a year, right? Yeah.
Look, I think Oklahoma is flying under a lot of radars. I think they're back to who they have been. I think that 6-6 first year,
6-7
or 6-7 first year under who's the fucking Clemson guy?
Venables.
Yeah. Really kind of impacted everyone's view of them, but I think they're going to be back to who they are.
I'll take the points though, because these games. Look, if you throw out that crazy game where they didn't have a quarterback, the other ones, and Oklahoma won every one of them, 39-27. I guess that one would cover for Oklahoma, but the other ones 34-27, 53-45, 4 overtimes, 55-48, 34-30. You keep going back. Even when Texas won in 18, it was 48-45. All these games are normally wild. Take the points all day. Jump over there, get that early bet. I love this rivalry. The Red River Shootout, Cotton Bowl, one of the best stadiums. They should play more games at the Cotton Bowl, and they should return the actual Cotton Bowl to the fucking Cotton Bowl.
Amen. Any chance Oklahoma pulls the upset in this?
Yes,
sure,
that's what I'm saying. You
course.
take the points. This is always going to be a crazy game. I definitely think so. I think this game will come down to the final.
Yeah, flip a coin.
Yeah,
that's what makes it great.
Final drive. Yeah. So yeah, it's NC Nick.
We're just going to move right down your little graphic there. It is going to be Ohio State at Oregon. Obviously, first matchup as Big Ten teams, even though they did play at the Horseshoe just 2 or 3 years ago. A game
And
that Oregon
Ducks,
actually won.
The Ducks came in there and got it done. I think, that was the first ever win for Oregon against Ohio State. Ohio State's 9-1 against them. But this game, I will say, like, Oregon's done I was going through and I'm building these graphics for our team previews. And I was going through the transfer report and I was like, Oregon and Ohio State to me are too short of Miami. If you're going to say who went out and just bought a fucking roster, Miami comes to mind, but Ohio State and Oregon would certainly be the next two, right?
Not Ole Miss. Ole Miss is always at the top
Ole
of that
Miss is
list.
in there too. I would say like those four.
But there's no way their athletic departments have nearly as much money to spend. I guess it would be boosters too. Ole Miss can't keep up with Ohio State or Oregon, right?
Well,
they're going all in on this year. They're going all in on this year because the schedule. Their schedule aligns very nice for them, and I think their fans know it. I think their alumni know it. Their boosters say, if we don't take advantage of this schedule,
maybe with Kiffin at the helm and them, doing pretty well over the last few years, they'll be up there.
But Oregon is one that I think is a true national championship contender this year. With Dylan Gabriel's like 60. You know what I mean? Like, so you're getting Dylan Gabriel as well as Dante Moore. They have quarterback depth because Gabriel does like to do that bullshit slide and get knocked out. Then the other pieces they added, they got players from Bama, players from they went out and really attacked aggressively. I think Dan Lanning, and another thing I know there's all this stuff around Phil Knight wants to win a championship before he dies. He's in his 80s, so this is their chance. This is a gigantic game. Now, this is one where I do think. I think we should have a 24. I mean, I'm on record. I think 32 is the perfect number, right? I think 12 is ridiculous without auto bids, right? And this is one though that I will say it gets a tiny bit devalued because this is, both teams can lose this game and still make the playoffs.
Exactly. Last
before,
year, go ahead, finish.
No, but before you couldn't, or it was very substantial, but at the same time, every other game on this schedule is much more meaningful, than say a year ago. So they always look at it from that side of like, well, the Oregon Ohio State game. They don't bring up the Coastal James Madison game that all of a sudden has much more of a meaning.
Yeah. Good point.
But anyway, what were you gonna say, Nick?
No, I was just going to say that you're right. Last year, the loser would probably be out. Like the loser of Ohio State, Michigan in the last few years was out. But with the expanded playoffs, I think there's a good chance. First off, I think this is 2 top 5 teams probably. There's a good chance they play it again, if whether that's in the Big Ten championship or in the college football playoffs.
And you got Chip Kelly back in Eugene.
That's right.
Gotta love that angle.
Oregon's schedule super favorable. Boise at home. The road trip is to UCLA.
No, both are like. Yeah. I actually think.
Michigan State
you know
home,
what?
Ohio
I will
State
push back. I will push back a little bit. Before you would know the loser, I'm going to say the winner of this is going to get a bye. So I think it's still a gigantic game.
That's a good. Yeah, that's another good point.
Yeah, I think the winner of this game is going to get a bye into the college football playoffs. Yeah, So fuck you, you fucking losers that went. Oh, we went 4 teams. Yeah, 4 is fair.
I can't see Oregon losing more than one game, assuming they beat Ohio State. Whether it's going to Michigan or Wisconsin or hosting a depleted Washington team, or
Wisconsin was ass
Michigan
last year.
State.
Well, actually, Colby, let me ask you this. Sorry to cut
Yeah,
you off.
I agree.
Now, if they play again in the Big Ten championship, then maybe the loser of the first game doesn't matter as much.
That's true too.
That is true. Well, but will they play? Like a lot of times, you're not going to get the top 2 teams in the championship game. ACC, Louisville, and or the Big 12 last year. Oklahoma State was not the second best team.
Well, here's a situation where the 2 best teams probably also have the most, the easiest path there.
That's true.
So
I
it will probably be a rematch.
Yeah.
But even still, on the off chance that one of them catches an L somewhere else and doesn't make it to the Big Ten championship, then yes, this game punches your ticket to the Big Ten championship and likely to the playoff,
and a good chance for the bye.
and for the bye. They're both going to get to the playoff. That's true.
And who is?
What were you going to say?
I would probably spend too much time on this, but who was the second best team of the Big 12? Because I'd argue that Oklahoma State probably deserved to be there.
I thought Kansas State was better than Oklahoma State last year.
Oklahoma
They just
State
had
beat
a
'em.
harder schedule. I know,
Oklahoma
but Kansas
State beat
State
'em.
had a. But even in the preseason, I took a future on Oklahoma State because the schedule aligned. It was much like Louisville. They avoided the best teams. So, yes, the Oklahoma State beat them head to head, but Kansas State was going through a fucking gauntlet. So to me, it's like, yeah, it's
unbalanced scheduling. True.
yeah. All right, it's my pick. I'm picking winners, but you guys did make the first 2 picks correctly.
Thank you.
All right,
Let's see if you can get this one right.
and I will go.
I think
to-
there is a right answer here,
really,
and I don't think your list accurately reflects it.
really,
Yes.
Ooh.
huh? Because Penn State USC is appealing,
For sure.
It's a good one.
but you know me. I'm glad something's back.
Please.
Where does he say in Shellsinger? I just want to be back where things make sense, right?
God.
Don't tell me you're picking this game.
You're goddamn right.
Dude.
I am.
As the third best.
What's better?
Look at your graphic. There's a couple right there.
Well, look, Florida's coach is getting sued by a quarterback they couldn't recruit right now, or they were trying to recruit. He signed a $13 million NIL deal or whatever.
Pick your game, buddy.
We're
State
going.
it.
Kansas State at Colorado.
I
It's
would
been
say-
happening for over 100 fucking years.
If we just went down the list one by one, top to bottom, then it wouldn't be that interesting. Then again, it's pretty ridiculous that a 4-8 team is
4-8. How about this? I don't think USC is going to be that good this year.
All right.
All right. And Penn State, what are they? What are they known for? What are they known for in James Franklin's era?
Choking in
They
the
haven't
big
made it.
games.
They haven't made a fucking playoff. Kansas State's been just as good as a program as fucking Penn State's been.
Thank you for clarifying
Yeah.
what they're known for in the James Franklin era.
No, look, I'm a Colorado fan. I grew up watching this game, and I actually thought for a long while there, it was. I mean, Colorado Nebraska in the '90s was like it was an elite rivalry in the late '80s and in the entire '90s.
Oh yeah, that was a great one.
And Kansas State was the second one. Like when we had to go look at our schedule in the Big 10 North, or the Big 12 North back then, it was like, man, K State was top 10 also.
Yeah.
So I'm glad this is back. They've been playing for over 100 fucking years. And you got Kansas State, who, by the way, Dylan Edwards, Colorado star running back, transferred to Kansas State. I think Colorado's a legit contender to play for the Big 12 championship. And Kansas State, the odds on are already there. You know what I mean? Like Kansas State, I think that Vegas says they're projected to play in the game. So Kansas State at Colorado is my play. Fuck you. Your thoughts?
Well, look, he does have 2 consecutive top 20 finishes at Kansas State. It took him a few years to get to that 10-win mark. He finally got there 2 years ago. 2023, 9-4, but a top 20 finish. Kansas State is almost back to where they were. What do you think about Chris Kleiman? Can he get him?
I think he's great.
Can he get him to the Bill Snyder 11, 12 win mark?
Yes, especially now. Well, actually, I don't know because they always had Oklahoma's number. I think Oklahoma fans are rejoicing not seeing Kansas State on the fucking
true.
schedule. But yeah, I mean, look, they haven't played in a long time. This game should happen every fucking year.
Well,
I'm
he's
glad
never
that it's
lost
back.
less than 4 games 4 games or less, the entire time he's been there. So they need to take a step forward for them to become a really nationally relevant team again. Colorado,
but they have their highest recruited quarterback ever in Avery Johnson. It was a freshman last year. Now they bring in Dylan Edwards, who played with Avery Johnson as a kid when they were, ankle biters. But I would say this is the most talented team he's had at Kansas State.
All right. Got to be on the lookout.
Nick,
the old Wildcats.
Your thoughts?
I'm glad Patty C and I got the first 2 right, because this is an obvious swing and a miss for Colby. Look, I mean, personal bias isn't supposed to come into play to at least the second round of games, not pick number 3.
What's
if you want me to talk,
I
if
think
you want me to talk,
be a
let me
6-6
my
team this
thought,
year,
sir. If you want me to, if you want me to talk highly of the game, is that the fact that these guys played every year from 1948 to 2010. So is it nice to have it back on the schedule? Yes. But you said yourself, it's a second tier rivalry. It's not Colorado, Nebraska. And the fact that it's not better than Penn State, USC, Florida,
is that a
Tennessee,
first tier
Ole
rivalry?
Miss, LSU.
Wait. Is Penn State USC a first tier rivalry?
No, it's not. But neither is Ohio State, Oregon, which you agreed
look,
to have number 2.
I know. Look, I would take Florida, Tennessee, but like I said, I don't know if Billy Napier is even coaching that game. I think Florida's going to be fucking terrible this year. He's getting sued by Jaden Rashada, and I think that might open up an opportunity for Florida to fire him, much like Mel Tucker, so they don't have to pay all this fucking money.
I don't have a problem with you playing Kansas State at Colorado over Florida at Tennessee. I think that's correct, especially if Colorado can improve at all. I think it could be a really big game in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree again. I mean, we'll get to Florida, Tennessee. But look, this is obviously it's a top 10 game. It's a fun matchup because of everything you said, but it's not number 3. Have we lost our minds?
I just think Penn State USC is kind of blah this year.
You guys are missing the one that's more important than both of them.
Really?
Yes. And I'm going to pick it next.
Okay.
Go.
Should I go?
Yeah.
The game is Ole Miss at LSU.
Why is that so great?
That is great because these are two. Ole Miss is now pushing into national championship contention as a program.
What do they call this? It's like the Magnolia Bowl, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. 11-2 last year. LSU is always a year or two away from being in a national championship or around a national championship. Ole Miss specifically, if they're going to make the push to get over the hump this year and contend for the SEC, has to go into Baton Rouge and get that done.
My problem is Ole Miss they've won once in Baton Rouge since 2002.
Well, yeah, they haven't been a very good team that entire time. They've been okay.
But do I trust them? Like, I know me and Nick just made the case, and I believe that they believe that this is their year to do it. The schedule aligns. In my opinion, Lane Kiffin's never won a big game in his life.
Well,
right?
who is coaching LSU?
Brian Kelly.
Who's a better big game coach?
I go Brian Kelly.
I might agree with you.
Yeah,
on that.
I go Brian Kelly, but I just like. I mean, we'll see. I mean, look, it's a great game because I do like the historical side of this, but I mean, LSU does dominate this rivalry. But hey, Ole Miss got him last year. They did storm the field. Remember the security guard checked that one chick. We had that one guy.
And these are 2 double-digit win teams from a year ago. There's not a Colorado that only won 4 games.
Okay, but at the same time, like, this is where I would argue with you. If you're going to do the Patty C basis here, what do we expect LSU to be this year?
Good.
Yeah.
Like, I think LSU could be in the same bin as USC.
I think both teams are still going to be good.
LSU had a horrible defense, and the SEC gets way harder. That's why.
And they did lose their.
They lost the Heisman Trophy quarterback.
Two first round receivers.
Yeah,
and Denbrock,
they're all
top offensive coordinator.
So I'm like, to me, like, Ole Miss needs to be like. I understand the argument here, and I respect the argument because I think it's fair. But I don't think it's a big like. If you told me Ole Miss ends up 7-5. I wouldn't be shocked at that.
I'd be pretty shocked at that. You're saying Ole Miss and LSU need to prove it to you. Colorado needs to prove it to all of us.
True, but I'm
Before
saying
you can put that game above these ones. I agree, Patty C. Ole Miss LSU is better than Kansas State Colorado.
Thank you.
And a couple things going in LSU's favor here is they're coming off a bye, and it's the second half of a back-to-back for Ole Miss. They're at South Carolina at the game before. I think it's a fantastic SEC matchup. Hopefully, it's on prime time. And I'm definitely tuning in.
It is a great game. It is a great game, but
Let me ask you this:
play some defense this year. That's another thing. It was a fucking
LSU
disgusting game last
What
year.
makes you think they're not going to reload? This is a program
Well,
that
I
has
would
so
say
much
under Brian,
talent at their
Brian Kelly, they've kind of gotten worse each year.
recruiting wise or production
well, both
wise.
recruiting. Did you hear his statements? We can't. We're just not. We can't buy defensive linemen.
I mean, I feel like they're
I
like a
couldn't help
top
but
5
laugh.
or 10 recruiter every year under Kelly so far. I guess it's only been a couple of years, but he's a better recruiter at LSU than he was at Notre Dame by a mile.
How much does recruiting matter now, though?
I think it still matters.
Because you've seen a lot of teams phone it in recruiting that are big brands right now.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of conflicting data there that makes it confusing. But either way, I think LSU is still going to be competitive. I agree with you there that I think I wouldn't be stunned if Ole Miss was 7-5, but I would be surprised if LSU had a.
I think this is a critical year for Brian Kelly.
Yeah, he needs because.
And let me tell you, if Kiffin does have a year where they win a bunch of games, he gone to Florida.
Yeah, he might be
Right?
going too. Yeah.
Okay, fair argument. I'll take what I honored as a kid as a rivalry game. Ole Miss LSU. You know, if you go back to when I was coming up, that was a fucking shitty game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Both teams sucked for a long time.
Anyway. NC Nick's on the clock. Where are you taking us?
I will take Penn State USC. It's my number 3. I think this is a fun matchup with realignment happening. Last time they played was the 2017 Rose Bowl where USC
was a great
won
game.
52-49. It was a fantastic game. I remember the game in '96 where Curtis Enos ran all over the Trojans back when I was a Penn State fan.
The neutral site game in East Rutherford bothers
That's
me
true.
to this day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
Nice pull.
Yeah. It's all up here, buddy. It's all up here. All right.
But, I mean, again, this game screams like a Rose Bowl matchup, and it's definitely. I think it's going to be primetime also, and it's going to be hard to choose between one of these primetime games because, like we said earlier, the up top, the top 5 games this week are fire. Fantastic game here.
Top 6 because Colorado and Oklahoma or in Kansas State deserve to be in there. But look, I mean, I'm one of these ones. This is a huge year for Lincoln Riley. Who gets fired first, Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley? Because I'll be honest, I think at least Brian Kelly won the SEC West 2 years ago.
I think Brian Kelly's on decent ground right now.
I think Lincoln Riley, if he doesn't,
I think
if
Riley's
he
on
goes
thin
7-5, I think they fire him.
Yeah,
They probably
that-
should.
That would be my answer to your question. Agreed.
Huge game for
USC
him.
has won 3 straight against these Nittany Lions.
No, that was a crazy comeback they made.
Yeah, they were down like 21-0 or something, 17-0.
That
I feel
Rose
like.
Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, properly played behind Kansas State, Colorado.
Who was that? Sam Darnold versus Saquon Barkley? Was that?
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
yeah. Who was the quarterback there for Penn
for
State?
Penn State was it? Who's the
Clifford
old-
McSorley.
McSorley,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no, maybe it was Clifford.
There we go.
No, it was McSorley. I think.
Yeah, McSorley, I think.
Yeah. All right. Joe Hackney saying Penn State USC is TMZ.
It is.
Joe just hates on me because I don't like Northeast football. So
That's right. That's right,
It
Joe.
goes back
Get
a
him.
ways.
He's a piece of shit. All right, get him, Joe. It goes back to me. Look, and I'll keep taking these games. All right, look. Man. Look, I feel like I'm supposed to play Florida, Tennessee here, but I just don't know if Florida's going to be any good this year. I'll play it just because they've given us some fucking great games, but I bet you out of all the ones we just mentioned, I bet you this is the biggest blowout.
Florida, Tennessee.
Out of all the games we've mentioned so far, this will be the worst actual game. But if it was at the Swamp, because Tennessee's had issues at winning in the Swamp,
Like last year.
yeah, I think Tennessee's going to fuck them up. Well, especially knowing right now, like we don't even know if Billy Neighbor's going to coach another game for them. You know what I mean? Like
what's
Jaden Rashada,
the Rashada
is
thing?
suing him,
Yeah.
but based on their cases that based on text message that he told him that you're going to be able to, get $1 million when you sign, and that would be an NCAA violation, and then it would give Florida the Mel Tucker thing. It's
Yeah.
not that Florida it's not that Florida's content on firing him, but if you
They
can
give
get
him
out
cause.
of
Yeah.
the bye,
Yeah.
and you're going to fire him anyway at the end of the year with this ridiculous schedule,
Yeah, just do it right
it
away.
might give you the pass of getting rid of him now.
Yeah.
So if that happens, you're looking at a complete shit show in Gainesville with that ridiculous schedule.
Yeah.
but it's this one they've been playing this one 100 years as well. Florida leads the all-time series by 11. Your thoughts on this matchup, Patty C?
I mean, fantastic SEC rivalry, obviously. Florida is not, the Swamp isn't quite 100,000, but obviously Rocky Top is. The game is in Tennessee.
But how about this? Only once in the past 6 years has it been a one-score game.
Yeah, but those are all Florida. Those are Florida blowouts.
Yeah, true.
Are we convinced that Josh Heupel has this thing rolling? 7-6, 11-2, 9-4 last year. I know Joe Milton didn't live up to expectations. Who's taking over the quarterback?
Nico from Long Beach. He's the kid with the Hummer in the video.
I
don't know how to pronounce his last name, but
these last names are getting out of control.
Yeah, Heupel. I never know how to spell that fucking thing. Does the E come before the U or after the U? Yeah.
First is DJU. You know.
Yeah.
What's our shortened name?
No, first it was Johnny U, because we didn't know how to say Unitas. And Nick, your thoughts on the game?
No, this is the last of my top 5 games here. Florida has owned this series. I mean, they're 17-2 versus Tennessee since 2005. Now, with the news this week, I think maybe the game has taken a little bit of a hit, so we'll see what happens with that lawsuit. I find it disheartening that we're even talking about an NIL lawsuit, but that's college football these days, so it is what it is. I just think that these games are always closer than you expect, you know, and yeah, maybe Florida Georgia is the bigger rivalry, but Florida Tennessee is, I mean, right there too.
Tennessee Georgia or Tennessee Florida, Patty? Which one is a better?
Tennessee Florida.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we're gonna look back at this era of NIL and just think of it as such a shit show, because they're gonna have to get this thing in order. You know, you can't just have like contract disputes based on text message promises. That can't go on forever. So let's enjoy.
Well, what
this.
I think hilarious is the kid gets fucked over. He was naive to think he was going to get $13 million because no one was getting that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and we should have talked about this. This case is hilarious.
He's also 18, so you can't really blame him for being naive.
Yes. No, I'm not blaming the kid at all. I'm blaming the fact that just the whole thing is hilarious. Part of the text message that they're alleging to from the story I read was that so he originally signed with Miami. Florida had to pay John Ruiz because he was going to sign with Miami for just under $10 million. Florida paid John Ruiz $150,000. The booster at Florida $150,000 to get him out of that. To then come, and then the money never showed up. So they fuck him over. So essentially, and this is why I would argue at for all these years, I know a lot of college football fans get super mad. They're like, they're paying the players. It's terrible now. This was always happening, but it was happening under the table, and the player had no fucking leverage. True. So now the player can do this.
Can step out and be like, fuck you.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but pretty hilarious story there. And now he's at Georgia. I love that part of the story too. They asked Kirby Smart if he was okay. Please do it. Please do it, because they're going to use this against him in recruiting.
He's like Deion Sanders. He goes from one arch rival to the next each step of the way. Miami, Florida, Georgia. We're going to be at Bama next.
Dude, think about this. Think about what we could have next year potentially. If Billy Napier can somehow walk this fine line and go 6-6 or 7-5, and maybe they don't fire him. Next year, Rashada will probably be starting because what's his name's going to go pro, the starting quarterback of Georgia.
Vandagriff,
he went Vandagriff's at Kentucky now. It's
Paul Carson
Beck.
Yeah.
He's going to go pro. So then you'll have Rashada against Napier. I love it.
Hello.
Anyway, moving along. Before we get to our next pick, though, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting for you. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pickup game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and much, much more. Make entries of all basketball players, or you can switch it up, mix and match across favorite sports. The UFL, I host the UFL Gambling Podcast. Go check that out. But if you want to take Adrian Martinez and the Birmingham Stallions, mix that with an NHL player, MLB player, you can do it, and that's what makes it great. You can win 100 times the amount of money you enter. Underdog's available in 30 different states. including California and Texas, and even the great country of Canada. So what the hell are you doing right now, folks? Hop on over to Underdog Fantasy. And by the way, they have their brand. They just launched their champions, their player versus player format in Florida. So hop on over there and check that out if you reside in Florida. And sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back on the clock. Patty C.
Oh, I believe it's.
No, I just played Florida, Tennessee.
Oh, Florida, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on the sheet yet. Okay. Well, I think this is where it starts to go a little bit down. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know what? I'm going to play a personal game. We're in round 3 now. I can play a personal game, and I actually think it might be the best game on the slate remaining, especially given the fact that it will be the feature game on Thursday night, prime time. We're talking about Coastal Carolina traveling to the Mighty Dukes of JMU, Bridgeforth Connect Stadium.
Yes.
8-5 Coastal Carolina at 11-2 James Madison. Look, the reports of James Madison's demise, I think, are greatly exaggerated at this point. And I think we may see a team that is contending mid-season for a Sun Belt championship berth and potentially a playoff berth.
I think it's a winnable game, and I love it on the weeknight, and I love the remember Grayson McCall, he pissed teal, not anymore. He's pissing red. All right.
That doesn't sound good.
he's up at NC State now, part of the Pussy Pack. So Coastal Carolina, though, look, this is a game where it's interesting. I know Weehawks in there say, I love the Thursday night game. Me too. This game's awesome, but I do wonder, are both teams? Are we definitely penciling them in as bowl teams, Nick? Sun Belt specialist.
Yes,
Okay.
but maybe not. Maybe barely. One or two of the teams might be like a 7-5 or so. I do agree that it is a fun game, even though since JMU has gotten to the FBS, they've beaten Coastal both times, and they haven't been close. 56-14 and 47-7. So this one I do expect to be closer. And the fact that it is Thursday night, I mean, maybe you play one of the power conference games Friday night over this one, but
He's
hey,
a
look,
JMU guy.
it's Sun Belt also, so I do love the game. To Joe's point, it'd be a fun game to go to. I might head up to Virginia for that. We'll see. So well played, Patty.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe Kurt Signetti took a lot of pleasure in. I think he talks shit about everything, but he was talking shit about beating Coastal Carolina's ass a couple times. So
I dig it. Let's start a little rivalry.
Might miss Signetti's trash talk there, but Bob Chesney has said JMU.
He doesn't strike me as a
Much of a shit talker.
unless he grabs a guitar and starts singing his heart out. Oh, Bob Chesney.
I'm glad there's another Chesney to give that name a little balance. Maybe bring some respect back to that name.
Isn't that Kenny's dad?
Yeah. It's probably Kenny's kid. He's young. I think he's 46, 47.
Bob sounds like the older generation.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Look, Bob Chesney said JMU spring game that they were ahead of schedule. It's rare that a coach just comes out and says that. We're ready. We are fucking ready.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. I mean, look, you got to play there. I see why you would play it just like my Colorado play. Is it the best game there? No, it's not. But look, we'll get to.
Give me a better one.
I will, but after Nick gives his pick.
Well, the one I was going to mention here, Friday night. Now, when I was making my list here, at that time there was only one Power 4 game Friday night. Now there's two, with the addition of Northwestern Maryland. But make no mistake, for those of people that call me a Big 12 hater, I'm not hating here because I think Utah, Arizona State, Friday night, it's a fun matchup. Utah, clearly the better team, but some crazy shit can happen in the desert.
Well, I was about to say, you want to talk about a lot of people don't know about. You mentioned Kyle Whittingham, and look, I love Kyle Whittingham. I think he's great. But you mentioned the desert. He has struggles at Sun Devil Stadium there. Now in Salt Lake City, they normally fuck them up, but I believe I'm trying to find the.
Well, they've won 4 in a row against Arizona State, but only one of those games was in Tempe.
That's what I'm saying. I believe they have a tough history in Tempe, and some of their best teams that have won 10, 11 games have lost in the desert.
A lot of that though was when they were a
With Todd
mid-major,
Graham.
if you will.
No. They joined. They look at this right here. I got it right in front of me. So they won in 2022, 34-13. But that was the year they had already fired Herm Edwards and they had an interim coach. Sure, they got him.
Utah won that one.
Yeah, Utah did.
Yeah.
In Tempe though, in 2018, which was still Herm Edwards, Arizona State got him 38-20. In 2016 with Todd Graham, they beat Todd Graham actually 49-26. But the time before that, still in the Pac-12, they lost 19-16. The time before that, still in the Pac-12, they lost 37-7. So they've had issues.
Utah's been pretty damn consistently good for what, like almost 20 years now, right?
I feel like Utah's hit another level the last 4 years. Last year, not included because of the.
They had some
quarterback.
really good years with
The
Meyer
2008
and,
team.
Whittingham.
No, that was
early
Whittingham.
Yeah,
They beat Saban in the
but
Sugar Bowl.
even with
Yeah.
Meyer though, they were very good.
Yeah.
They've been good for a long time. But I think maybe you're right. Maybe they have, gone back up to the level they were at. I think from a sustainability standpoint, as a program, I think you're right, Nick. I think they're a better elite program now than they were.
And they're another one of these teams with a 35-year-old quarterback.
That's true.
I mean, I really think we got to start thinking about this when we're talking about our national championship futures. When you look at Oregon, you look at Ohio State with Will Howard, you look at Cam Rising at Utah. I mean, that experience is huge. I think that's going to matter a lot. I think in a lot of games, but it is a sneaky game because this place will be lit. The fake tits will be bouncing. Patty C. Yeah, I mean, I like this game. But let's talk about this for a second. I love how they moved Northwestern Maryland to Friday night, but it's easily the worst game on Friday night because you have Memphis at South Florida.
Agreed.
Which has huge implications in the AAC.
Yep.
Utah at Arizona State, which is just. I mean, in general, Arizona State's just a tough place to come and get a road win. In my opinion, whether it was Oregon that was the 1 year with Cristobal they lost. You know what I mean? Like they got bit in Tempe.
Yeah.
It's just a sneaky place. It's a sneaky place to get you. And then you have Northwestern Maryland. Easily the worst.
But let's just be happy with 3 games Friday night.
I'm very happy. I want
Especially
5, 6.
if anybody out there playing DFS, like if you just have one game, you do the captain. Okay, 2 games. There's so much limited options. 3 games, that's a decent slate. Now you got some options. You get some differences between So I'm glad that they moved that to Friday night, even though it's the worst one. I agree.
And don't forget, we do DFS episodes when the season comes around. So cash in. What's up, buddy?
I was gonna say if your worst game is 2 Power 5 8-win teams, conference game, then you're doing all right on a Friday night.
Yeah. There you go. All right. It bounces to old Dundee here, and look, they call me Big 12 Dundee for a reason. Let's stay. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I see a lot of shit out there. And what I will do is I think last year was a bad representation of BYU's program. They were injured. They had a lot of injuries, but they also made a mistake by going for Keaton Slovis, who's never completed anything, including his passes. So now they brought in a bunch of quarterbacks. I think they brought in 3 or 4 in the portal. Arizona is a team that a lot of people have as a contender in the Big 12 championship and one to make a contender to make the playoffs. I'm one that actually think they got better at head coach as opposed to what they had prior. But this is a big test because you go into Provo. I love this game, and I like it's a border battle. Patty C.
Beautiful. It's a culture battle.
It's a culture battle, 100%.
Although I think Arizona was part of Mormon country originally. I looked at an old map of Mormon country. I think it goes straight from like the whole. They had the whole West, the Mormons.
Next time you do that, you got to record that and put that on social.
All right,
yeah. Arizona at BYU.
After
Patty
finishing the Mike Leach book about Geronimo, Arizona was Geronimo territory. Apache.
Yeah.
Go check out
There
book
might have
Coach
been some
Leach
old
did.
Mormon versus Geronimo battles back in the day.
Look, how about this? You want
My money's on Geronimo.
How about this? They're all time. They're dead even, playing each other. All right, boom. Goes back. That shit goes back to 1936.
What's the all-time series?
12-12-1.
Okay.
This is one of the new Big 12 rivalries I think could actually work.
I would say Arizona's the far more intimidating program, or no, or BYU rather, the far more intimidating program. But Arizona's had some good years.
Yeah, they really have. I mean,
They're not a terrible program.
Yeah, they've had some really good years. They went to the Pac-12 championship a bunch of times. Nick, it seems like you don't like this one. Big 12 hater.
No, actually, this was in my top 10 as well. I actually had 3 Big 12 games in my top 10. And it's kind of funny the shakeout this week because there's no way it's a bad week for the ACC. I had 0 ACC games in the top 10, which means I am fair, unlike others. So I had this at number 8. I do think it's a fun game because I don't think BYU is ready to contend for the Big 12 title, but it's going to be fun watching the Big 12 contenders. And we think Arizona is a contender. It's going to be fun to watch those teams play in Provo because kind of similar to, I guess, Arizona State, in Provo teams can lose. And I wouldn't be surprised if BYU knocks off Arizona here. So I do like this matchup.
I just want to say that, like, I know that was their first year in the Big 12, but I also believe you got the worst BYU team in the past, like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
You go back, well, the injuries too. Like you can't. It's almost like a Rand at Baylor. When your backup quarterbacks are transferring out because you named Slovis a starter because you transferred in, and that's a risky play.
Depletes your depth a little bit.
Especially when you're bringing in a guy who's never completed a fucking season.
Yeah.
So it's a very risky play. It was very stupid of them.
Well, then maybe they should have anticipated the transfers that would have happened.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'll say this. Now, they got their ass whooped when was specifically a couple games when they had both quarterbacks out, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at some of they beat Arkansas at Arkansas. No, Arkansas wasn't great last year. They beat Texas Tech. The team that NC Nick says, Oklahoma State, double overtime loss in Stillwater. The week before that, they should have beat Oklahoma with the backup quarterback. This team was a lot closer to being good. It wouldn't shock me if they contended for a championship this year because Kalani Sitake's proven to be much better, I think, than last year's results.
I want to go back and look at Kalani Sitake's year by year.
It's a big year for him. It's a big year for him. You know,
at BYU,
the fans want him fired, I think.
9-4, 4-9, 7-6, 7-6, 11-1, 10-3, 8-5, 5-7. So this is the 4th straight year last year that they got worse, although 2 of those years were 10-win seasons. So
yeah,
I think it is a big year. You're right.
It's a big year. It's a big year, and I don't know. I think this game is a little more. I expect BYU to be certainly a bowl team this year, and if not that, like if you told me with 2 weeks left they could make the Big 12 championship, I would not be surprised one bit.
I don't know if I'm ready to go that far.
Hater.
Good game though.
What's their quarterback situation?
They brought in a shit ton of transfers. They brought in the kid from Baylor. What's his name? Jerry Bohannon. Okay. They also brought in Treson Borgat, the starting quarterback of Western Michigan. They also brought in a guy that started at Utah State.
Now, BYU used to breed quarterbacks. Now they're going after this like run a quarterback thing. I wonder how that works.
It's true. Zach Wilson though was not that long ago. They need to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they had to just recruiting.
Yeah, but BYU always had the advantage of being. Well, you know what probably has happened a little bit. COVID really screwed their advantage up of having people in their mid-20s or late 20s.
Because everyone else, because Cam Rising's older than everyone at BYU.
Yeah, that's right. That is a fly in the ointment.
All right. Anyway, Patty C, it's back to you, buddy.
I'm gonna go, win total. I'm gonna go contrast of style. I'm going to go. I'm going to make this a positive thing. This lack of regionality, this cross region game here. It is kind of interesting, the contrast of styles. If Washington is anything like the team they were last year, which is a pretty pass happy team, going into Ames or Iowa City rather, and
those fans aren't going to like the all-time series is dead even 3-3.
Heated rivalry. Maybe this becomes something more. At the very least, I'm not 100% sure who I think is going to win.
Oh, I feel pretty good about Iowa.
I feel decent about Iowa too.
I don't think Washington lost. What did I read this nugget the other day. I want to say 92% of their roster is gone from last year. 92%.
That's a lot. Well, it's hard to know how much depth he was able to bring in before he left. Fucking
Jed Fish.
no,
You mean
DeBoer.
DeBoer, yeah.
How many years was he there at Washington?
Just I think 2,
2
right?
years, yeah.
And here's the thing: is he wasn't recruiting very well, but he would just use the portal. He brought in Penix, who he knew, and a lot of those other guys were portal gets. Dylan Johnson, Mississippi State.
Yeah, they might take a huge step back if they are at all the offense they were last year. If there's some Kalen DeBoer residual, then they might go in and smoke the shit out of Iowa because. Look, for as great as Iowa is, they've been blown out before. Usually not in Iowa City.
It don't happen in Iowa City.
But how often have they faced?
Say anything.
How often have they faced elite, high octane offenses? That has. I feel like Ohio State.
I would ask the other.
Well, they
question.
played in the Big Ten West, so never.
Never.
No,
but
Ohio State would get fucked up there too.
I feel like Ohio State went into Iowa City once or twice and rocked their shit. And
how long ago?
I don't know.
Not in the Phil Parker era. Damn it! All right.
I could be mistaken. It could have been in.
How about this? I would, don't let.
Columbus.
I know Deacon Hill transferred out to Utah Tech. Last time.
Or Purdue.
Last time Ohio State went into Iowa City was 2017. Iowa put up 55 on them.
Oh, it was Iowa.
Oh, 55 to 24.
See, I was remembering it reverse.
The time before that was 2010. So are they even in the same conference? 2010. And Ohio State won on a last-second field goal, which they later had to vacate, 20-17.
No, I think you're right. I think I was remembering that completely wrong. Iowa went off on Ohio State.
You don't bring that bullshit into Kinnick.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe Iowa crushes.
And Nick can hate it all he wants, but you try bringing in some top-tier bullshit 2024 offense into Kinnick Stadium with Phil Parker. Good luck.
Washington will probably resemble TCU this year, huh?
I think so.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking that if you could find odds on them to not make a bowl, I might jump on that. Nick, your thoughts on this game?
I guess it's well played because right now you could play anything because we have witnessed the drop off on for the week. I would like to take this chance to mention the fact that when all these West Coast teams were joining the Big Ten, we thought it'd be nice to see them play in Iowa City in cold weather in November.
I know. Fuck
and
you.
The last 3 home games for Iowa this year, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Sounds like Big Ten West football. They protected
bullshit.
those damn West Coast teams.
They did. And Tony Petitti and Kevin Warren, you filthy, filthy bums. All right. We want to see that. If you're going to do this cockamamie thing of having Rutgers and UCLA in the same conference, at least give us contrast. Like give us those happening.
I think it's smart business by the Big Ten. When the SEC was bringing in Texas A&M, they don't want to lend credibility to the Big 12 by giving Texas A&M a favorable schedule and making the SEC look bad. So they're going to give them a hard slate. The Pac-12 doesn't fucking exist anymore, so there's no threat of making the Pac-12
Pac-2. They still got the Pac-2.
That's true. Maybe they look better, but they already have it. So they want to make their new teams look good, like valuable additions.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna fuck them up, I think, but I think you had to play it here. I'm not gonna critique it too much. NC Nick about to make his pick, but before I do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Rhythm. Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. It's bobsled time. Cool Runnings, if you didn't know that one. Look, if you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in a matter of seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. So what are you doing, folks? Start a free 7-day trial and start winning with your NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you get your apps. All right, we are back. NC Nick is on the clock.
Well, weekday Nick still has his heart on. It's gonna be all
please,
show long.
Please, leave that off.
TMI.
You know what? Cancel the show. I'm done. I'm done with this.
This is side B, right? I'm good.
No, we're still on A.
Oh, shit.
And download. There's a reason why our downloads are going the opposite direction. Anyway, okay, where are you going?
It is Memphis, South Florida. It is the third game on Friday night, or I'd say the second game on Friday night, because I do think both of these teams have a legitimate chance of winning the AAC. And with the new playoff scenario, if you win the AAC, you might make the college football playoff. It's a fun game. I would point towards South Florida freshman quarterback, Raleigh's own Byron Brown, who really lit it up last year. He was on Patty C's fantasy team, throwing for 3,300 yards, 26 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions, while running for over 800 yards and another 11 touchdowns in his first year as a starter in college football. So expect him to really blossom into a very good quarterback. And look, I mean, Memphis is probably the odds-on favorite to win the conference. So Memphis USF Friday night. A lot of fun.
It's a huge game. But I know Patty C's the one that drafted Ole Miss LSU, but Nick propped it up so well. It was like he was crowning Patty C. That was like a 55-49 game last year, Ole Miss and LSU. Nick then takes this one. This was 59-50 last year.
Give me those points.
This game was ridiculous. and he is Big 12 Nick now. He's the old school Big 12. People don't realize the Big 12 changed like 3 years ago. It used to be, everyone with the Kingsbury offense or a Leach offense. And, NC Nick, though, is all of a sudden, and he hates Big 10 West. He hates the Big 10 West. He likes these shootouts here.
Well, I mean, what's my nickname in the intro? What do you call me?
Rooftop
IPA drinking,
DFS God.
DFS God. You would lends itself to DFS is some goddamn points and yards, not 10 to 7 games in Iowa City.
Well, if you play Iowa's defense, all right, they don't give you that though, huh?
Not in college, no. That's just
ULF.
Memphis quarterback situation there.
The kid's back from last year.
Hennigan.
Drawing a blank on his name. Yeah. That's why I drank Hennigan's.
Okay,
Now this is a huge game as far as that one bid. I think that's going to be the most compelling thing this whole fucking year. By the way,
do we have AAC futures?
I don't think so yet. But
I think somebody in the chat said one book came out today with them. We gotta go back up in the chat a little bit.
Huh. If you could track that down.
Okay.
But
we had last year SMU.
Yeah, it was Joe.
Okay.
So FanDuel just dropped. Well, okay. So they dropped win total. So not exactly to win the conference, but you can kind of, from that you can look at it.
Yeah. Get some ideas. SMU's gone. They were the.
Well, he's saying ECU seems to align. And by the way, you see, ECU is killing it in the fucking transfer portal right now.
Ooh,
I don't know if you saw. I'm telling you, we're contenders this year.
Oh, ECU's bound to bounce back. Too good of a program. Mike Houston, honestly, too good of a coach.
But I think that's going to be the most compelling thing about this upcoming season. Believe it or not. Like, okay. Who we mentioned Oregon State, Washington State last week. Are they going to be the front runners to get that? The Mountain West race all of a sudden becomes so much more interesting. Liberty's undefeated run in the CUSA. Will it be enough meat on the bone? Like you mix that with the AAC and the Sun Belt, like you have like all these weekday games are going to fucking matter even more.
Yeah, true.
It makes the season a lot better in my opinion.
I agree. Now I said Alex Galesh would get 3 10-win seasons in his first 6 years at South Florida. Already bumped him up to 7-6 in year one from the.
I'll tell you this,
basement.
Man, with all the other schools leaving too, like you're kind of sitting on.
Boom. Shit, might be 3 10-win seasons in the first 4 years. You gotta get more drunk
on these shows.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great game. I think it's well played in this spot. All right. And by the way, they've been playing that one for 25 years. Memphis has a 4-game lead on the Bulls. It is my pick, and I will take. I mean, I've played only Big 12 games so far, guys, and there is one Big 12 game out there that is very interesting in the Truck Stop Conference. But I gotta take you. I am intrigued. Like I said, look, the Big 12 game probably deserves to be played here because I think it might have implications on the Big 12 championship, but I'm not. Because this race that we talk about here, that we just talked about 5 seconds ago, when you see Washington State going into Fresno State, I think this could be a major game as far as who gets this spot.
The race we're talking about being the Group of 5 playoff.
Yes.
race.
Well, to me, Washington State and Oregon State have the advantage.
Have we confirmed that the P2 is in that group? Do we know that for sure or not?
That would be a group of 6.
Well,
at
if
this
not, then how the fuck did they get an auto bid? To
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking.
No, they've already ruled them out of the
I thought
auto
they
bid,
ruled them out of the auto
but
bid.
I don't think I've
so
seen
then
anything about their inclusion in the group of 5 at this point.
Well, they have to then.
They can't just
They
be
have
in
to.
limbo by themselves, right? You would think
They
so.
could be
but-
independents like Notre Dame.
dude. It's NCAA college athletics. You know, I mean,
They're still
Don't be-
technically in a conference, right?
you shouldn't be
Pac-2.
surprised by anything.
Yeah. That's true.
They're in a conference. They're not independent. They're in the Pac-2.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that would make them a non-power team, so a group
Well,
group
and the
of whatever.
fact they have so many Power Fives on their schedule, like I think if you're a Liberty fan, you're like, man, I need Washington State and Oregon State to lose a lot. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that strength of schedule is going to be so much higher
Yeah.
than like Liberty doesn't play any P5s or P4s.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what would be hilarious is that say like Oregon State or Wazoo makes it, and say no former Pac-12 teams do. That'd be
no,
awesome.
the best shot at this really is Washington State because Oregon State's bringing in a brand new roster. Washington State, they keep Jake Dickert. To me, yes, they lose Cam Ward, but they have a lot of the nucleus of the team there. They go to Fresno. I think it's one of their toughest games on their. Obviously, they play Washington, but I think Washington State can get Washington, and I actually think it hurts Washington playing week 2 because Jed Fish has got that brand new roster. So I think Washington State's a real team to watch to get to the 12-team playoff. And going into Fresno, where Jeff Tedford has won a lot of big games there, whether he play as a player or as a coach, I think it's an underrated game for this week.
You're thinking Washington State won't fall off nearly as hard as Oregon State.
Washington State's not going to fall off that
It's
much.
it's
If
different at
anything-
the helm still.
Yes, they lose Cam Ward, but they bring in another FCS quarterback that was a stud in the FCS, Zevi Ekos, right? And I'm
Nice.
telling you, he could play, right? And it's gonna make it interesting. And another thing is Oregon State gets Oregon week 2, right? They're gonna get fucked up because their whole team they're redoing it.
Yeah.
Washington State gets Washington.
That's
Washington's
true.
redoing their whole team.
That's a great time to get them.
They're gonna get them. They're gonna get them, man. But then,
Let's go Wazoo.
But I also think Fresno State's a contender for that spot.
Sure.
Because Fresno State plays Michigan week 1, and even if they lose that game, the strength of schedule there is really going to help them.
Well, let's be honest. A group of 5 team with 3 losses isn't getting in. The pollsters will elevate a 1 or 2 loss at most. Probably a 0 or 1
I
loss.
think they'll fuck over Liberty because Liberty has 0. They don't play any P4s. So I think it's going to be like Marshall when Marshall went undefeated
Liberty
like 5-6 years
burned
ago.
their like goodwill last year.
Yeah.
That is going to be interesting to see who they have highest.
I think
Non-power
Fresno
conference.
is a contender. I think Oregon State, Washington State, obviously their strength of schedule is going to be higher. After that, I think it's anyone. App State, it could be JMU, it could be ECU, it could be Memphis. I think it's a Fresno, Boise, all of that. Mix is going to be a very fun watch, and it's going to make the weekday game so much better.
Yeah,
well,
agreed.
I'm
And
curious. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I'm just going to say one more thing about this matchup. Wazoo at Fresno it's a rematch of the 2022 Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. So I mean, what more do I need to say?
I got
Yeah.
free tickets to that. I didn't go.
Talk about getting a chubby.
Yeah, something about SoFi Stadium just sucks. But how about this? Wazoo has the 3-2 all-time lead. Fresno's looking to tie things up. You're coming to the Valley? Fuck out of here. Let's go. This could be a great game.
Great game.
You like that play, Nick?
I do.
Yeah.
I had it right there.
Thought he was going to hate on it because it's the West Coast thing, All right, look, folks, if you're listening to this on the audio side, check out the part 2 edition of the College Football Experience Week 7 draft. And if you're on YouTube, just stay put because we are just going to pause for about 5 seconds as we go into the second episode on the College Football Experience. You better start thinking about yours. All right, we are back on the College Football Experience, the B-side where things get loose. Patty C's on the clock.
Well, okay. This is probably too early. It's I don't see a lot out there that I love. I'm gonna play a game that has some personal interest to me. Let me take a look up and down this list a little more. No, nothing's jumping out. We're going to go to Orlando, where the Bearcats of Cincinnati will be playing against the very, very Golden Knights of Central Florida. And I don't know. I think both of these teams can only improve. based on last year, Cincinnati is a way better program. We've seen that.
It's a rivalry game according to Wikipedia. They got it marked as a rivalry game.
Yeah, I think it has developed. I don't know if it should be marked as an official rivalry.
UCF has a 5-4 time
There's
lead.
certainly a lot of shit talk between the two fan bases when they go at it. That is for sure. They both are vying or had been vying for that, bump up to the group of 5. They both got it to the Power 5. Both got it at the same time. And so they're kind of like a package deal, and I think they hate each other. So it's kind of fun.
NC Nick, your thoughts on Cincinnati UCF? Another Big 12 game. You hate this one too?
Nah, dude, we're at the point of the week where you can play anything, honestly. But also, to be honest, am I going to watch this? No, probably not. The one thing they have going for, I mean, they do have the AAC history, so they've been playing for the last like 10 or 15 years, which is kind of nice, and both of them were at the top of that conference when they were, at their peaks. But overall, though, it's not the best game in the world. But at this point in the week, we've fallen off a fucking cliff, so no game will be. Colby, but also I had the other Big 12 game that you were going to mention higher than this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, Big 12 is just hilarious because I was going through and I'm trying to project records, getting my team previews ready, and I'm like, I got no idea, man. I really got no idea. Like, Cincinnati is one of the only ones I trust to not be good.
Well, Scott Satterfield has gotten better typically as his team, as he develops his team.
Yeah, he got 9 wins in his final year at Louisville, right? Or 8 or 9 wins, something like that.
8 wins, I think.
Yeah. But still, I think UCF is a legit contender in this conference with KJ Jefferson and some of the other guys they brought in.
Yeah, that does improve.
So I mean,
he's a far better quarterback than John Rice Plumlee, right?
Yes. As far as like fitting
maybe
that
not
system,
quite as exciting.
Yeah, I thought Plumlee would fit that system better, and it just didn't work.
It didn't work out as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good game. I like it. I think it deserves to be played right around here. And NC Nick.
Well, my if I'm going by my rankings, I will take that Big 12 game. But I'm gonna say that for you, Colby, because I do want to pick the first ACC game of the week, and it shows you that how bad of a week it is for the ACC. A lot of bye weeks for the ACC teams this week, so I want to take you to, don't laugh, Georgia Tech at North Carolina. Part of it is me being a Tar Heel hater and the fact that Georgia Tech has won 3 in a row and 5 out of 6 in this matchup where UNC's had the better teams every year.
UNC was like top 10 a couple of those times, and Georgia Tech's fucked up their season. That has kind of made this game a little more hilarious than normally. Normally, I would say like this game would lose a little bit of its luster, but for some reason, and I do believe both times, like I think both times UNC was ranked.
Yeah,
when Georgia Tech beat them of late. So pretty hilarious stuff there. Georgia Tech dominates the all-time series in this matchup.
That's why North Carolina is always counterfeit. They'll really impress you, and then they'll lose to a fucking pretty average team.
Yeah. Well, I want to say I think it was 2 years ago where North Carolina had beaten Virginia Tech in the opener. And then they'd won a big game. It was either Clemson or Miami or something.
Yeah.
And then the very next week, Georgia Tech beats them. And I think Georgia Tech fucked them up too. I think Georgia Tech won by like 28.
Is North Carolina the new Clemson? Is it instead of Clemson?
It is. It's Carolina.
It's Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think you can play this one here. That makes sense. Let me ask you, which team's gonna have a better record this year?
That's a tough one because I'm telling you guys, I think Georgia Tech's got kind of, going under the radar. I think they're gonna be solid. They're not gonna be great or anything, but I think they're gonna be solid. So I think they could have similar records.
I was trying to forecast the, how like Patty C called for O'Brien to be Boston College next coach, and I called for Mendenhall to go to New Mexico. I always try to forecast, and I'm like, if Mac Brown's like fucking 80 years old, if he struggles this year, which when I say struggle, even if he's like 7-5,
he might hang it up.
They're gonna get rid of him, right?
Yeah,
they might.
Couldn't you see Lincoln Riley at North Carolina? He's got ties to the state. I know South Carolina. I said that last week. One of the two.
He seems like more like a North Carolina guy than South Carolina.
Yeah,
I just like the finesse offense and like really like clean shaven, kind of yuppie-ish.
So he goes 7-5 at USC. They fire him. North Carolina's like, hey, we Lincoln Riley. We got to get Lincoln Riley. I could see it. I could see it.
The real quick aside, I have identified exactly what I expect to see from a North Carolina fan and a UVA fan, and they're different things. North Carolina fan, I expect to see, like Nick described, a blonde guy with a comb over, or I guess it wouldn't be like a side part, and really clean, right? UVA fan, I think it's your classic like hat with the winged like long hair coming out the sides, but both are douchebags, yeah. So
shout out to Robert Martin in the chat. Robert's the man, and he says Georgia Tech's gonna be 5-1 going into that week.
5-1
going into week 7.
Wow,
that'll be saying something. He says UNC will be 4-2. So
I feel like you just have to lean North Carolina being the better record at the end of the year, just based on recent history, right?
Well, last year, what did Carolina do? Because Georgia Tech won 7, right?
I don't know, but overall, I feel like North Carolina has definitely been the better team lately.
No, they definitely have. And last year, UNC went 8-5, and Georgia Tech went 7-6.
Yeah, Joe says GT beating North Carolina is like how Virginia beats UNC.
Yeah, exactly.
Similar, those two teams. All right, I like it. NC Nick did leave this. I just have to play this game right now. And just because it might have major implications on the Big 12 title race. Iowa State's going to Morgantown. And by the way, Iowa State's looking to tie this thing up. West Virginia is 6-5 all time against the Clones. I mean, I have no idea who's trying to forecast this game. Who's winning this game, Nick? Who'd you lean? I'm trying to go through the season. I have a spreadsheet that I'm doing an exercise where I'm trying to forecast every game. Right.
Well, there's a reason why the series is 6-5 in West Virginia.
But that whole Big 12 is like this. I'm like, I got no fucking idea who's winning this game. I lean West Virginia because it's Morgantown.
Yeah.
But Matt Campbell always beats teams he shouldn't.
True.
He's got a strong record of doing that. And Iowa State returns, I think, the third most production in all of college football. So it's tricky, but I think it deserves to be played here because I think both are legit contenders for the Big 12 championship. and might I add,
always says that for every Big 12 game.
Well, he's
not
right.
Cincinnati though. But might I add, a 12-team playoff with an auto bid. How great would it be for the fans in Morgantown or Ames?
Holy shit!
Oh my god!
Well, that's what I would say.
To host a game.
Yes.
Well, then they have to be towards the top of that, though.
5 through 8.
But
they would have
possible.
to have a great year.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they were like Big 12 runners up, they'd probably host a game.
If they beat Penn State week 1 in Morgantown, which is going to be on fire, by the way.
Yeah. It's possible.
They'll have that win against a team that they're probably going to be competing against.
Yeah.
A competing tenant, Patty C. Tenant. Yeah. What do you make of this game?
Oh, well, yeah. I think
the fan bases, how great would that be if Iowa State, just the fact they know they're going to make the playoffs, that changes that whole fucking town.
Iowa
Ames,
State or
Iowa,
Morgantown?
Both.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I don't know much about Ames's fan base.
What? They're awesome.
Right, pack it out.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're fucking exactly why we love college football.
What else is there to do at
these.
Ames?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you go watch football, but they don't have. I don't think the glamorous reputation that a lot of other fan bases have.
Well, Larry Eustacia, their former basketball coach, begs to differ.
Well,
okay.
Well,
in basketball,
here's why.
I kind of feel like they do have a reputation a little bit.
Well,
but
here's
anyway.
why, and some people might take this the wrong way, but and this is going to sound coastal elitish, but nobody gives a fuck about Iowa State. That's true. Sorry,
Yeah.
Colby,
You
it's
can't
true.
put it any more directly than that.
You know who might give a fuck about them? Everybody in the state of Iowa this fucking year. This is why you should have expanded the playoff 100 fucking years ago, college football, to make everyone have a seat at the table. If Iowa State has a great year, Matt Campbell can take this team to the college football playoffs, and I think they could even win a fucking game in the playoffs.
The Clones all of a sudden are
especially
must-watch TV.
Yeah.
Look, West Virginia, I would say, is the one place or one of a few places in the country where their home team that isn't up to snuff can beat anyone on any given Saturday. Like when Oklahoma went there a few years back, Oklahoma was a pretty damn good team, right?
Well, Iowa State, I would even say too, in Ames.
Iowa State,
Ames,
I would say that too. But this game is in Morgantown.
Yeah.
So I think that, West Virginia is appointment viewing whenever they're in Morgantown.
And if you look at it, I mean, both these teams were top half of the conference last year. And if you remove Texas and Oklahoma, they were both top 4 last year. But these teams never played before West Virginia joined the Big 12.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those games like I think Colby usually mentions Baylor at West Virginia. Same thing. And
No, this is one of those ones that made college football worse.
Yeah,
I'll
Colby
be honest.
mentioned
Yeah.
I think last week he mentioned that people in Stanford don't even know who Virginia Tech is.
Yeah.
Before joining the Big 12, people in Morgantown didn't know who Iowa State was.
100%. And I would still argue that
It's going to take a
They don't-
lot to make this interesting as a rivalry.
well, I think it could make a lot for the season though to be interesting. Like that's what we're playing here. I know this is like a Penn State USC game or a Rutgers Washington game, but both teams are like Rutgers is not a legit contender this year.
Right.
Both these teams are legit
Yeah, the
contenders
fact that
this
they're
year.
both good
Yeah,
helps.
that's the selling point of this game,
Right.
and the fact that both teams could potentially, host playoff games. Joe Hackney's saying there's 8 teams you could make an argument for winning the Big 12. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying.
Colby
Shut-
might argue even more. I mean, what Big 12s can't win it? Teams can't win it. I mean,
I think
say
Cincinnati,
and Houston.
maybe Houston, but Fritz is such a good coach. and
He's
for him,
not.
like-
But year one, he's not going to win the fucking Big 12. Get out of here.
I mean, all you have to do is get to the championship game, and to me, I have to do a deeper dive on their schedule. But I Arizona State, I would add. I think Arizona
Yeah,
State and Cincinnati are the two that jump out to me.
So there's 3 out of
'Cause
how many now?
Houston, yeah, of 16. But Houston is still like, to me, it's like you recruit Houston, it's there for you, and now you finally put a great fucking coach there.
It might take a couple years though.
Yeah, it'll take a little while, but the potential's definitely there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would probably add them to the list and say those 3 probably.
Would
do
you
well.
add Colorado?
Cincinnati,
No, I think Colorado's actually gonna. I actually think jump in on a future on that.
if
shit.
you have a Heisman caliber quarterback in the Big 12 this year, you could win it.
Colorado has done amazing in the portal, strengthening their offense and defensive lines. And when you go back and watch last year's team,
Right.
that was the glaring weakness. The skill positions were all there,
True.
and if you fix that, that changes it to me. Now, I would still not favor Colorado to win the Big 12 championship, but I think they're, Deion, to his own detriment here, they bring in a lot of attention. That team's closer.
That's the
They're
double-edged sword.
closer.
I mean,
to-
Jacksonville
than people realize.
Jackson State, the same thing. Would they go like they were like terrible? He came in like 6-6 year one, and then boom, like 1 loss or undefeated year 2, ends up losing in the conference championship game. I could see a similar outcome. I would be surprised if they.
I think they're a lot more talented on the line of scrimmage than people realize this year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be undefeated level.
I don't
team.
think so
Yeah,
either. But
they could be good. They could be bowling.
no, they could be they're contenders to me. They are contenders in that conference. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, where the fuck are we? Patty C, you're on the clock, buddy.
Well, again, picking through the trash here to find something that I find interesting. It has been at times an interesting series. I don't know if I can accurately call it a rivalry, although it's had some pretty epic moments. Stanford at Notre Dame. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not hating. Look, but if Troy Taylor gets the offense anywhere near where he had it at Sacramento State, which was absolutely flying, if he can get that going at Stanford in year 2, and Notre Dame,
The best thing you got for yourself is this like a 100-year-old rivalry.
is it?
They started playing 100 years ago.
But I mean, before the 90s, they had barely played. So maybe the first matchup was 100 years ago, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like they were playing every year.
Didn't they play in Notre Dame's only Rose Bowl appearance in like 1925 or
Yeah,
something?
that was the first time they played.
Okay.
So it's 99 years old. But
old. Yeah, almost 100
well,
years.
that's the selling point to me because this game's boring as fuck. Besides that,
Well, I think we have to be careful when we say that it goes back 100 years. Not if they played one game in 1901
It
and then
goes
didn't play
back
again until
100
true,
years.
but it's
1960.
still a rivalry. Like,
But don't paint the picture like that they were playing every year for 100 years. That's not just this game, but in general, you can't paint a picture just because they played once.
You know
in
what?
the
Tarnishes
1890s.
this rivalry. I agree with you, obviously, Nick. That's we can't
Yeah.
say it's 100.
well, they've tried to make it a rivalry game, and that's what I'm saying. They end the season with this a lot of years.
Well, replacing an actual great rivalry with a make-believe rivalry, even if it has had some great moments, because that's what they did. They took Miami Notre Dame off the schedule and replaced it with Stanford Notre
And
Dame.
they play for a trophy, Nick, the Legends Trophy.
Not the leaders.
Look, I think Notre Dame has certainly playoff probability to be there. This could be
100%.
Stanford
Get
has
that future in now.
often been a thorn
Notre
in their
Dame is
side.
in this playoffs.
Probably, yeah.
They're going to lose A&M week 1, and they're making the playoffs.
And they're going to take a spot from either the ACC or the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Well, the
Stanford
game
did
sucks.
win the last time they went to South Bend, 16-14.
No, Stanford
Marcus
gives
Freeman's
Notre
0-1.
Dame problems. That's what makes it a little bit fun. And it's usually a pretty good game when these two get after it.
Yeah. Nick, your thoughts on Stanford, Notre Dame, ACC, and an ACC matchup here?
I do think it's a fake rivalry, and I don't care about it whatsoever. I'm not blaming Patty C for playing it because, again, we're at the point where you got to play something. But I've never really been interested in this matchup.
Is this the peak of private school pussy
It's
football?
up there. It's up there. It's up there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I need beers. I'll be back.
Yeah,
you
go.
Want, you want
Look, no, I'm good. Folks, I want to tell you, you're listening to the College Football Experience. We're part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and it's the biggest week in racing. The Indy 500, Monaco Grand Prix, and the Coke 600's happening. Rod and Cody from the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and F1 Gambling Podcast have you covered. Make sure to join their Kyle Larson diecast car giveaway. That's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race to register, and make sure you subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and the F1 Gambling Podcast. Plus, we're giving away we're running a mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off everything in the merch store. Promo code SGPN May. Go get yourself a College Football Experience t-shirt or a Pick Dundee t-shirt. Chances of getting laid go through the roof. All right. Hop on over there. Remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride. All right. We are back on the clock. And NC Nick, I got a feeling he's going to that game in Raleigh.
No, I was going to go to a game in Lafayette.
Ooh.
And this game used to be fantastic. I mean, these two teams played in the Sun Belt Championship game in 2018, 2019, and 2021. Have the Raging Cajuns fallen off a little bit? Yes.
But they're still making bowls. They're still making bowls. So
exactly.
Hey.
And in App State in the Sean Clark era, they've been known to drop a random road game where they just haven't shown up. So I think
And can I'll spice it up a little bit for you too. Imagine if App is to beat Clemson or something, and they are in that driver's seat to be the top team to make the playoff.
Yeah.
And then they go into Lafayette and get upset. They are 8-2 all time against Louisiana Lafayette, but they've lost their last two.
And both those games were in 2021, where Louisiana won in the regular season and the Sun Belt Championship.
Oh, they were playing. They got 2 home games.
Yeah,
Man,
what do you make of this one, buddy?
oh, I like it. Of course, personality on both sides. Cajuns versus fucking Mountaineers. Pretty opposite cultures there a little bit, but all alcoholics, which I can get down with.
I know we're hoping for Orgeron to be the next coach at Lafayette, but Des Moreau, you want to save your job with a big win over the preseason favorites to win the Sun Belt?
Oh man, yeah. You want to talk about the type of game? Wait, but the Cajuns they are Sun Belt?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, this could be the kind of game that develops this into like a
big time rivalry.
Big time.
I kind of feel like Patty C only knows the Sun Belt East where JMU resides.
Well,
Yeah.
it just confuses me with like the Conference USA because they all switched, and I'm like, all right, what the fuck happened there? You know?
Well, the whole damn sport switched.
Somebody needs to pay attention more.
We got Stanford in the
I'm
ACC,
sorry,
buddy.
a 6-6 fucking Sun Belt West team isn't all over my radar.
Well, I just mentioned they played in the Sun Belt Championship games in 2018, 2019, and 2021. That wasn't enough.
Getting my fucking beer.
It's a good game to play. I think it's correctly played. I think it's a top 30 game, and I think you got it. What number are we on playing these games, Patty C?
We are at 17. We've played.
All right. So now
Let's
jumps
kick it
over
into
to
gear.
Dundee. I told you. I'm a Mountain West guy. When I see San Diego State go into the what October, what will this be? Will it be
It's
cold
not,
in
it's
Laramie?
not that
October
cold yet.
12th.
They're helping all these California sissy schools. Damn it!
Colby, when did we go to Laramie last year? Was it about the same time.
I think it was.
It got pretty chilly there actually.
What's the highest elevation in all of college D1 college football?
Wyoming is?
Yeah.
And you wonder why Wyoming won the fourth quarter against App State. Maybe those North Carolinians were getting a little chilly too.
That's what I'm saying. They thought there's little sissy mountains over there in Appalachia, huh?
It's true. I mean, they kind of are.
Yeah. San Diego State at Wyoming is my play. I think. Look, I think the Sean Lewis hire is one of the best hires this offseason. I think San Diego State's instantly a contender in the Mountain West with Sean Lewis at the helm.
But
And
will that cha-cha-cha offense work in Laramie in the cold?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where I think the Jay Sawvell hire by Wyoming, I think they're going to be fine. He was their defense coordinator, and their defenses were fucking good the past few years. So I think they're not going to miss a beat going from Craig Bowl to Sawvell, and I think this game may have some implications on the Mountain West title game. Mountain West, this year's going to be fire. I was listening to someone else talk about how they think Bronco Mendenhall can get New Mexico going this year. I mean, how fun is this conference this year? Then you got UNLV on the up. You got
UNLV. I would say is a defensive team with Odom, right?
Yeah,
defensive identity.
Well, they have that crazy offense too with the OC from Howard. But yeah, they were a good defensive team too. But then you add in Fresno and Boise. And to me, Air Force with Troy Calhoun. And then you got Wyoming, and then San Diego State, and just a ton of fun. You got Niamh Talolo coming into San Jose.
There's a lot of
running the fucking
personality.
run and shoot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
guys? I would actually argue if you go across the whole landscape about conferences and how wide open they are. Mountain West wide open, Big 12 obviously wide open, ACC wide open, AAC wide open. Even the Big 10 and SEC are more open than they have been in previous years.
The MAC is always wide open.
MAC is always wide open.
If I'm going to make the prediction of the one that's the most obvious to me, it's the Big 10. I think you can pretty much pencil in Ohio State, Oregon. Michigan would be the only other one. I don't see Penn State as that team.
They could.
Well, sometimes the schedule thing, but I think the Big 10 is the most obvious. Right now.
Takes a step forward. They could be,
but also at least it's not Ohio State versus the Big 10 West winner.
True. Even though I want Iowa to win the Big 10.
Has the Big 10 West ever won a Big 10 championship?
No. Have they ever kept it? Have they ever kept it within 10?
They had to have at some point.
No, because that was only like a 20.
Wisconsin went to the Rose Bowl a few times, although that might have been because they lost to Ohio State, who went to the national championship or something like that. But I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure.
There's no way the Big 10 East won every single.
They only did it for like what 10 years?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you are right.
So no, I think wait, because they had the leaders legends the first 2 years. So year one was Michigan State, Wisconsin. Wisconsin won 42-39. Year two was Nebraska, Wisconsin. Wisconsin won 70-31.
Well, that's two Big 10 West teams.
That's true.
Doesn't count.
That's true, but that's the leaders legends.
I forget how that breakdown was.
Well, they didn't switch to the divisions until 2014. But since 2014, they won 0 to answer your question. And to be honest, the scores
never that close.
Well, there was one, and in 2017, Ohio State beat Wisconsin by 6, and in 2015, Michigan State beat Iowa by 3. Damn, Iowa was that close.
Oh, that was like the 1 yard away
close.
game, right? Yeah.
But we did have scores like 59-0. You did have scores like 42-3, 26-0. You know, some really bad performances there. But to your credit, Nick, I get your point, and I know Robert Martin's talking about how Holy Cross QB Matthew Saluk is now at UNLV, and I'll add in that Campbell's starting quarterback Haj Malik Williams is also at UNLV. They went out and got 2 very good FCS quarterbacks. But I find the Mountain and you're right. It seems way more open in college football too. And you add that with the fact Harbaugh and Saban are gone. You know, it just seems like there's no more Big 10 West. There's no more SEC East, where I felt like you kind of got a little bit of a gift. You know, So
well, I would say that makes this year a fun storyline, especially since the storylines that had happened before were super defined. Like, is Michigan get it done with Harbaugh? He might be on his way to the NFL. It was very concentrated on a couple storylines. Now it's wide open. It's like, let's just watch what happens and see the storyline emerge as it happens. Obviously, you have Georgia, I feel like, as a favorite, but that's not even really a storyline.
Yeah, I think Georgia, like you could say Georgia's in the SEC championship. I think that's going to happen.
Probably.
Now, I think Ohio State and Michigan. I'm sorry. I think Ohio State and Oregon are going to end up in the Big Ten championship. But it wouldn't. I mean, I guess it's kind of foolish for me to say that when Ryan Day can't get a win against them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sharon Moore's 1-0 against them.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
But that's the only side there where I feel like it's a little more. Like, is Minnesota a contender?
No.
No, you know what I mean.
No.
Whereas like in the ACC, you're like, could Cal make the ACC championship? And I'm like,
Absolutely.
I see a path. You know what I mean? Like, where and you in the Mountain West, like I said, you can kind of name almost every school. I even think Timmy Chang's got it rolling a little bit.
To your point, Colby, I think the Big Ten has the least amount of possible champions. It's probably only like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And the SEC is probably like 6.
And then like the Big 10 or the Big 12 is like 12 teams.
Yeah.
The ACC is like 10 teams.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a lot of fun.
Mountain West wide open, Sun Belt wide open, MAC wide open. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Yes. Let's go. Patty C, you're on the clock. Where you go?
I mean, let's look at the screen, see if anything jumps out there. I'm just looking at this big long list of things. Nothing there is interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Like the depth on these things suck.
All right, we're gonna make a personal play then. Look, Louisville had a very good year last year. 10-4 ACC championship berth. And then if they had it was Florida State that had was missing their starting quarterback, but they kept it pretty close in that ACC championship game. Virginia though took them to overtime, if I'm not mistaken. In the regular season,
I don't think it was overtime, but Virginia was up in the fourth quarter, 21-14.
Yeah,
Virginia.
and Louisville won 31-24.
Okay, that's what it was.
They've been 7-point games. Actually, the past 3 times they've played 3 straight years. And it was 31-24 Louisville win last year. The year before with Satterfield, Louisville won 24-17. The year before that, Bronco Mendenhall won 34-33.
Which that was in Papa John's, or that was
in Papa John's. 34-33 was in Papa John's.
Okay, so
the Shack.
They've gotten them 3 years in a row though, Louisville.
They've gotten them actually. No. UVA won that one in 21.
Oh, okay.
So
2 straight for
two
Louisville.
straight
though.
for Louisville. They lead the all-time series by 2.
Louisville does.
Yeah.
Well, this one's in Charlottesville, and look, I don't know if Brahm's going to have this. You think he's a very good coach. The quarterback situation, O'Connell is. They
got Tyler Shuck coming in.
No, Shuck's coming in.
Yeah.
Plummer sucked anyway.
Or Plummer. That's what I was thinking of.
Shuck's better than Plummer.
Okay, but he doesn't have the
durability. This
the history with
Brown's got QBs, man.
Bro, yeah, I'm not worried that I'm just maybe they're not quite as good as they were last year. Even if they are, this game's in Charlottesville.
I was actually talking to someone about this. I was doing a show on this. They're going to be a better team than last year, but have a worse record. They had the great schedule last year. This year, they're actually going to be a more complete football team, but they'll have a worse record.
Do you think Braum is building them into a real contender, like normal or a regular contender?
I think in this day and age of college football, I think Jeff Brown's the best coach in the ACC.
X's and O's, recruiting, whole package.
Both. Well, I'm saying like the reason why I won't say Dabo is because he doesn't use the portal. Yeah. I think you need to.
What about Norvell?
What about Norvell? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Brown's better than Norvell.
Of course, Norvell in the hot seat year and
That's
a half
what I'm saying. Last year coming into the season, Norvell was on the hot seat. So I even think at that, you look back last year, they got some breaks and stuff. Now that they didn't get some breaks at the end of the year.
Hasn't he had like consecutive 10-win seasons? Norvell, were they 10-win 2 years ago?
I think you're right.
Were they 10?
I think it was 3 years ago.
Close.
They might have. Yeah.
But Brown, dude, I trust Brown more than Norvell. If I was a school athletic director, I would hire Brown.
He strikes me as a much more experienced and developed coach. You know, with a
2 years ago, he needed the bowl game to get to 10. But yes, Florida State finished the year 10-3, beating Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl.
6-6. That was a bullshit.
I think Norvell's has established himself as a decent coach.
Yeah, of course. I'm not trying to shit on him. I'm just saying I would take Jeff Brown over him right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with you a little bit, but Florida State, obviously the far better roster and, ability to get talent.
Saudi Arabia State.
Saudi Arabia State. Yeah. That's right. Either way, I think Virginia's going to, at some point, has to get better. I don't know. They did lose a lot of the speed that they had on the edges.
Is Tony Elliott, when we're doing a show next year at this time, is Tony Elliott their head coach?
Yeah. I think UVA would be slow to fire him anyway, even if he went like 2-10.
Well, you had to deal with
they'd
the
wait to
shooting
the
and
end of the
everything.
year. Yeah.
Nick, your thoughts on this ACC Classic?
I like it. You know, last year, true freshman quarterback for UVA, Anthony Calandria, Patty C's boy, threw for 315 and ran for 90 yards in this game. So he threw a lot of interceptions at times, but he showed, that he's got some potential. So if he can take a step up, win the starting job over Musket, then he might be in store for another big game here.
Robert in the chat says, does Virginia go to a bowl this year?
I don't know. Right around there, 5-6 wins.
It's gonna be close, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm on the no train.
I think they improve
might be
over
too.
their 3-9 record, but still probably come up a
5-7.
game. Yeah, probably.
It's almost like the Louisville thing. They'll be a better team, but they'll have a worse record, or something like that.
They'll be a better team with a better record, but they'll still just suck. So,
all right, next up. NC Nick's on the clock. Where's he taking us to?
All right. I like this stretch of ACC games. I will take you to Raleigh now, my hometown. Syracuse at NC State. I like the fact that NC State's kind of flying under the radar. Miami, Virginia Tech getting all the presses. I think NC State has a legitimate chance at winning the ACC this year, and Syracuse is a wild card. We'll see what Franny does up there.
I mean, if the quarterback
Kyle
Honda McCord, ends up being really, really good, that could give Syracuse something that
Syracuse won the last time they played, 24-9.
Was that at Carter Finley though?
No, but last time they played at Carter Finley, they got fucked up. They've actually lost. They've lost their last. When's the last time they won in Carter Finley? 2013. They won 24-10. I mean, you got to play it. You got to play it. Syracuse is a true mystery team this year, but they've got some big names in the You look at what they brought in from the transfer portal. They were like from big schools, man. A lot of kids from Georgia, a couple of Ohio State, a couple from LSU, and you're just like. I mean, the guy's definitely bringing in more talent than Dino Babers did, but I actually thought Babers was a decent coach.
Yeah.
Like,
let me. Is Mike Locksley potentially a decent comparison here
to Fran Brown?
Fran Brown. I mean, we don't know anything about.
Give him a chance here. Don't slap the Locksley tag on just yet.
I'll say this: Babers should get a job though. If I'm a MAC coach, if I'm a Conference USA coach, Dino Babers has proven it. Like to me, he won 11 games once at Syracuse or 10 games.
No, Babers is a decent coach. Runs a good offense, but
and COVID killed Syracuse, man.
Right, is Babers a defensive guy though? Because he would bring in
no, he's off. No. He brought in Rocky Long.
He brought in Long. Yeah, he brought in but he brought in what's his name from Virginia, Anai.
Yeah. No, but he was a wide receiver at Hawaii back in the day. Babers was.
Yeah. Okay, so he's an offensive guy. Yeah. Yeah. I think NC State could be a player in the ACC, of course.
I mean, they're contenders. I just said Cal's a contender. NC State's a contender. Syracuse, I don't think is a contender, but I mean, I have no fucking idea what to think of Syracuse. It wouldn't shock me. If you told me with 3 weeks left in the season, Syracuse had a chance to play in the ACC championship, would that shock any of you?
Not really.
They won like 10 games like 2 years ago, right? Or 3 years ago.
Yeah, they're a weird program. They're hard to figure out. I don't know that I haven't paid close enough attention to the assistant coach hires that was it Fran Brown. Yeah, Fran Brown made. So projecting them seems pretty hard at this point. But I don't think the Locksley comparison at this point is so bad. He's improved. He has definitely improved the talent level at Maryland, and it has resulted in wins. And if he can do the same thing at Syracuse, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, but I still say like Maryland had that terrible thing before that. You know what I mean with the death, and then like
I don't know how much that impacted.
Well,
them.
my point is that like Friedrin had Maryland rolling
like 25 years ago.
Well, 20 who was
years
after that?
ago.
It was just Edsel, right?
Edsel. They had to have a couple.
No, they had Durkin, but he got fired for the death. But he was only there like a year. Friedrin, I think
was there until like 2008, 2009, right?
No, I think it was like 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he was there for free.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I don't know. Yeah, I mean Maryland. Yeah, there are Maryland was a decent program for a while. And
I thought Durkin still had them bowling, so it's not like
they were okay.
They were kind of the same.
Yeah, but they're better now. I think the program is moving in the right direction. He's been bringing in talent. I think they're legit. Like maybe a little bit scary. of a
Okay,
team.
you're right. One game better than they were before. Like Edsel had him. Edsel had him 7-6, 2 years in a row. Durkin had him 6-7. You're right. And then Loxley struggled for the first 2 or 3 years there.
But now he's got it going.
You're right. 2 back-to-back 8-win seasons. Now those are pending the bowl wins against
Fran Brown should be so lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's fair.
All right,
Friedrin had the
last 10 games here. Let's roll through these because there's not much. There's not much meat on the bone.
And wait, it's your pick, Nick, right?
No, I just took that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it jumps over to me. I will take you to. I'll stay in the ACC.
Oh.
California at Pitt could have major implications.
This is a game though that expansion brought that I don't care about. I mean, it seems boring as fuck.
What?
Yes.
But wait a second here. You can't tell me there's a difference between fucking Syracuse and NC State, and Cal and Pitt from a entertainment
From a
standpoint.
uniform standpoint.
Yeah.
I think NC State's the better of the 4 teams, but I mean that's probably just some homerism on my part. So I guess so.
I mean, this series goes back to 1955. Nick, Cal has that all-time lead.
No, those are an identically like pretty boring matchup as
Cal Pitt is hilarious because you have 2 defensive coaches going at it. You're probably going to see some terrible strategy. You know, remember when Narduzzi kicked the field goal? He's down 7. They had a 4th and 1 at Penn State's fucking 3-yard line.
with like 2 minutes
Yeah,
left. In the
kicks
game.
a field goal. One of the craziest things I've ever seen. Narduzzi's on the hot seat. Wilcox is on the hot seat. That is enough to watch, and that's why it's more compelling. Give me Pitt at California.
Oh, Cal at Pitt.
I'm sorry, California at Pitt. You know what I mean? At that ridiculous stadium. No one's going to be at this game though. That's going to hurt the TV viewing product. I'll give Nick that. But yeah, Patty, see your thoughts.
This game sucks. I mean, there's nothing you could do. I'm not blaming you, but Cal at Pitt, there's just nothing really.
But
compelling.
I would argue that Cal and Pitt are more contenders to win the ACC than Syracuse is.
Sure. Well,
So that's
Pitt,
why the game might.
Pitt
matter
only
more
won
than-
like 3 games last year too.
I
but
know, but they won a bunch the year before.
They're kind of
they-
like Baylor.
Yeah, they are. That's a good comparison.
that is a good comparison. They, although Baylor has been known to have drastic improvements from one year to the next, and I think Pitt's capable of that. Cal has been the same team for the entire time under Wilcox, pretty much, but we haven't seen them against the ACC. Maybe that team is like a 9-win team against
Well,
ACC.
I actually, and look, Robert in the chat saying Cal's going to be 1-4 to start the season. I push back on that, man. I actually think Cal is the team to like. I think they're one of these teams to watch in the ACC this year because look, they're home to UC Davis. Think they win. They're at Auburn. I still think that game's winnable because Auburn didn't go out. I would favor Auburn, but it wouldn't shock me if Cal won that game.
Well, if you watched the game last year, Cal should have won that game.
Yeah. Then home to San Diego State. I think that's a tricky game. I mean, damn, their schedule is hard though. And then at Florida State and then home to Miami. Then at Pitt is a hard schedule, but I still think they'll get some of those. They're not going to have just one win. They'll get Miami like we said last week. So
Yeah.
anyway, Nick, your thoughts on it? Anything else?
No, not really.
Okay. Patty, see where you're taking us.
Okay, so I'm back. Look, I'm gonna play a game that's probably pretty boring to a lot of people, but I find it.
Every draft pick. Let me tell you, this pick's going to be boring. But
I find it. You know what? I'm gonna go with another pick. Screw
where's
that.
weekday Nick when you need him, huh?
It's
I'm
true.
coming.
There are some good weekday games up there. Look, we are going to Winston-Salem. Clemson has to
God.
go play against Wake Forest. Look, maybe they are a little better than they were last year. This is a team that had a bunch of good seasons in a row. Was it last year? Wait, has it been 2 years in a row that they've slumped, or
2 years in a row they've slumped.
Okay, so maybe it's not going so well.
Well,
in
I
old
think your problem
Winston-Salem.
is this: the games have been close. I'll give you that, but Clemson has beaten them. The last time Wake Forest beat Clemson was
2008.
yeah.
Look, I'm not working with much.
But
And
look, last
go with-
year was a 5-point game
Yeah.
in Clemson. The time before that, in overtime, Clemson won 51-45. So the games have been close. Can Dave Clawson get there? But damn, Clemson's whooped their ass over the past 20 years. Nick,
You got to play something.
what are you doing here?
I didn't have this in my top 30, honestly. Yeah, this a game that doesn't. But I mean, I guess to Patty C's point, last 2 years have been close. That's the only thing you got.
Yeah, and enough of this ACC shit. All right, like, get out of this ACC. Take us out of this ACC misery, Nick. Where are you going?
I will take you to Wednesday night. We haven't played a Wednesday night game yet, and I think the best game Wednesday night is probably New Mexico State at Jacksonville State. They were the second and third best teams in the CUSA last year. We'll see if New Mexico State falls off with the coaching change. But hey, what else are you gonna do Wednesday night?
Yeah, my problem is you want to talk about. I don't know what the fuck happened with Jerry Kill there. Like, I almost feel like he clashed with the administration. He's like, you know what, fuck you, I quit. Right. And then the administration, the athletic director, were not prepared for it, and then go and hire Tony Sanchez, the former UNLV coach. Now he is a guy that was on his staff, but he was not good at UNLV. It was if I had to grade the hire, I thought it was a rather lazy hire. So, and then the whole team transferred out. Pissing Pavia is at Vanderbilt. Everyone's at Vanderbilt.
Is it the best game Wednesday night, or do you prefer FIU at Liberty?
I'll tell you what. I trust Mike McIntyre to keep the game closer. Probably. I don't know. New Mexico State is one where you want to talk about a team that the biggest win like what they win 10 last year.
Yeah.
I think it could, like, I know we mentioned Washington. Yeah. I think this is the one that could potentially drop off the most. I wouldn't be surprised like that when you lose who they lost. Just to go through, folks, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Vanderbilt took like a lot of their team, but also their linebacker Gabe Peterson, Houston. Like I said, their quarterbacks Stowers and Diego Pissing Pavia. They lost their offensive coordinator also to Vanderbilt. Jerry Kill's at Vanderbilt now too. They lost just their whole fucking team. There was their best offensive lineman. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year. But look, you got to play it. It's a weekday game.
I actually probably made a mistake. I think the other P4 Friday night game, the new one switched to Friday, is better than this one.
So
but I'll let.
pick.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I'll
I'll remind the next person that game's still out there.
All right, just real quick. It's not exactly going out on a limb to say that New Mexico State could have a drastic decrease in win total. 10 wins last year was the high watermark, I think, since 1960 when they were playing like NAIA football or whatever. Yeah. They've had in their last 19 seasons, 16 seasons with 4 wins or less. They suck.
Well, that's why it's something was weird in the water there, man. I want that story to come out because it doesn't make sense to me. Kill had a buzz around that program. Everything was going right, and then it seemed like honestly, like, and I'm only speculating here. It seemed like the school pissed off Jerry Kill, and he's like, you know what, you're not appreciating me. Fuck you.
Well, it seemed pretty outrageous for him to just threaten to kill someone. Didn't he do that?
He said he would go to Cancun, right? He said, if I kill someone, I'm close. I'm going to
kill
Cancun
the opposing team's coach and move to Cancun. I think that indicates that maybe he wasn't in the right state of mind, and maybe you're right that something the university had done had led him to make such a ridiculous statement.
It sucks because they were building that thing. I think he should be like, I thought he was going to be there for the next 5 years. It's a good play. Actually, before I get to my pick, I'm going to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em games as simple as picking higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and much, much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times the amount of money you enter, and it's a ton of fun. Underdog's available in 30 different states, including California and Texas, and even the great country of Canada. So what are you doing, folks? Hop on over there, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. They also just dropped Champions, their player versus player format for the state of Florida. So check it all out, folks. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right. Look, it's weekday games. I'm kind of intrigued by this game here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Scotty Walden comes into UTEP and he brings, I think, I was doing the FCS show. I want to say 28 players from Austin P to UTEP. In this day and age, I think that shit helps. I think UTEP's going to be a lot better than what the UTEP we know them to be. So when they head into Kentucky to take on the Tops and Clay Helton's brother, why am I drawing Tyson Helton? I think we might have a little bit of a game here between two bowl teams. UTEP, Western Kentucky. NC Nick, your thoughts?
It is my second favorite game Thursday night at Houchins Industries LT Smith Stadium in Bowling Green, Kentucky. God damn.
All these teams are doing that. That's part of the. I was just reading an article about this with the big gap from the SEC and Big Ten. Everybody's whoring their stadiums out to try to make up for that gap.
Just intimidating stadium names.
Yeah, so get ready for all this stuff.
It's a solid, fun Conference USA game, though. I like it.
UTEP, Western Kentucky, Patty C on a weeknight.
Look, UTEP, I guess probably not that good. Western Kentucky's been a solid program for a little while. What do we think makes this game compelling?
Well, I said Scotty Walden comes in from from Austin P to UTEP. He brought about 30 of his transfers with him.
Austin P had been
good in the FCS. Yeah, the Governors, right? He's also the guy that turned down Southern Miss. You remember that?
9-3 last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and
they were good, man. I think they're going to be a bowl team this year. But hot take: UTEP makes a bowl this year. Let's go.
All right. Yeah. I mean, Western Kentucky, I knew they had that high fly offense. I know there was some turnover there. I haven't been following Western Kentucky super close.
Ton of turnover there. Its OCs are all gone now. But
are they still? Is the offense still moving?
Yeah.
Presumably. I mean, I guess what would make this compelling is an established program versus potentially up and coming program. We're at the bottom of the list. We're getting toward the bottom of the list.
right.
Just pick a game.
Moving along.
I see you're on the clock. What are you doing here?
You know, it's almost time to just go with an FCS game. But I'll go with two teams that I find fun, even if I don't know if the game's going to be great. Boise State travels to Hawaii. Play me that song, Colby.
Just for the song. Just for the song.
Look, the Rainbow Warriors, maybe it's a long trip. It's probably a recruiting trip for Boise.
No, it's a conference game. But wait a second. I thought Timmy Chang's team was much more competitive. I know it was only resulted in 2 wins. But you go back and look at that. They have a 1 score loss to Vanderbilt, right? They kept it close with San Diego State as well. Now they did get their ass kicked in some games, but I think that's what I'm saying, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I think this is easily gonna be his best team at Hawaii. So I'm telling you, I think a lot of these Mountain West games are going to be fun. Now, obviously, I would favor Boise heavily, but it's still the Ching Complex Center. Bring your membership, and I think it's Nick. What do you think of this game?
What I think about this game is that Hawaii song is on fire.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot else going for it. I don't know. I mean,
I think Hawaii could be a bowl team this year.
I think maybe they have an upset in them that could really derail Boise's season and playoff hopes, but I think it's probably unlikely.
I don't know. Let's go next. Nick, where you? Where
I will take the Big Ten Friday matchup. Northwestern at Maryland. This is not the sexiest game in the world. It is the 3rd worst on Friday night, but it's still a decent matchup. And if this game is on Saturday, I would not watch a minute of it. And
now we're gonna watch the whole game.
Yeah. So
that's the benefit of doing this stuff. And Northwestern leads that all-time series 3-1. So Mike Loxley, not necessarily killing it.
Well, Northwestern hasn't been a terrible team for,
Still, you would expect with all this talent to come in to beat
he's
to take
just
down Northwestern.
getting it rolling. Give the man time.
MJ Morris now, that era begins. Transfers over from NC State, leaves the pussy pack for College Park. Yeah, you got to play it. It's a weekday game. It's I would not have much interest in watching this on a Saturday, but now I do all of a sudden have this interest in watching this game. It makes sense. Patty C. Oh wait.
I think it's you.
Yeah, it's me. And Look, I told you, get ready for strong dosage of Mountain West action. I am very intrigued. Actually, these games need to be moved to a weekday. There's 2 Mountain West games that I find, 2 or 3 that I find fun out there. But it's debatable which one is the best one. But UNLV heading into Logan.
Not the one I would have thought you would have chosen there.
UNLV heading into Logan, I think, is a tricky game, and I also think it's probably gonna be cold by then. Logan is not that; it's northern Utah, kind of by Wyoming and Idaho. So I think it's a slippery spot for Barry Odom and company. Blake Anderson. I know Utah State's had a really hard time in the portal. I feel like if Tim Albin's saying these things, like they need to interview Blake Anderson because I feel like his whole fucking team is gone. But I still think he's a good football coach. And I still think Utah State will be flirting with a bowl game, and I think it's a potential slippery spot for the Running Rebs. How do you see your thoughts?
Well, we're gonna see if UNLV is a pretender or a contender on a long-term basis. Obviously, last year was phenomenal. I would love it if they had another good year. But Blake Anderson or Barry Odom, I don't know who I think is a better coach. Blake Anderson obviously had a lot of tough luck in life, and I'm rooting for him. But the game itself could be competitive. UNLV going up into the mountains of Utah could be tough for them.
And I mean, Utah State they've had 2 losing seasons in a row, but they were still bowl teams. They were 6-7, lost both bowl games. They're capable of beating UNLV. It wasn't that long ago that 3 years ago he won the Mountain West, went 11-3. Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's a matchup between a team that was in the Mountain West Championship last year and a team that was in it 3 years ago in Utah State. So both teams have that kind of ceiling. So it's a decent matchup at this point.
You don't just walk into Merlin Olsen Field and get a dub. All right. All right. Patty C, it jumps back to you.
Now, I'm gonna talk about a couple just briefly in case we don't get to, or maybe we could just talk about them.
Wait, how many picks do we have left?
We each have one more.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the ones we didn't cover for a moment. Once we get there, I'm looking up and down. I don't see a lot. You know what? I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go South Carolina at Alabama. Just because
Beamer Magic and Tuscaloosa.
it's possible. It was impossible to get this kind of win against Saban, against DeBoer. Maybe it is possible for Beamer Magic to strike in Tuscaloosa. Unlikely though, of course. But man, talk about another. Beamer has seemed to keep himself in the good graces of
this case
enough.
This could be a good game. I mean, I don't. Is
Gamecock fan, but
maybe a good game, Nick. What do you think?
Probably not. I mean, if it's at South Carolina, yes, play it. But in Tuscaloosa, I find it hard to believe.
Yeah.
Fair. Well. Yeah, I don't know. I think you got. I mean, it's not.
I mean, it's just big time. Like South Carolina still has like top 25 recruiting classes or thereabouts, top 30. So you're looking at 2 pretty damn talented teams either way.
Yeah. All right. Good game. Good game to play. It deserves to be in the top 30. NC Nick, where are you taking us?
Yeah, this is a boring ass game, but I think it does. I think it's interesting. So I'm gonna go. You might guess Big Ten. Wisconsin at Rutgers.
Oh wow. Not the Big Ten game I would have chosen.
But just because Wisconsin is in a critical point, a critical junction in their football history. Like,
there's no more Big Ten West to save you.
Yeah, exactly. Are they going to be a top tier Big Ten team? Are they going to be a second tier? And then Rutgers. This is a statement game for them. They have at least a big name coming into their home stadium. Last time Wisconsin came to Rutgers, they won 52-3. I got a feeling it's going to be a lot closer this time. So not that I'm going to watch a ton of it, but I'm interested in the outcome at least.
It's not a terrible selection. It would have been a more fun traditional SEC or Big Ten West matchup, even though obviously Rutgers is as far east as the Big Ten.
But they deserve to be in the Big Ten West.
They are a Big Ten West team at heart.
Yeah, I mean, I put this on Friday night too.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
do 2 games, flex that. But yeah, I mean, this is just one that once again realignment. It's somewhat interesting, but I guess sort of.
Wisconsin at any point being the more pussy of a team has to be new
Yes.
to their fan
Yes.
base, and this is one
Hilarious.
game that that's the case.
All right. Look, this is not a boring game. You're gonna think it's a boring game, and these guys keep saying before their picks, "This is a boring ass game." This is not a boring game. There's
Sell
points
it. Sell
in
it.
history. There's points in history where you finally got over the hump. You know what I mean? You finally got it. So when I see an SEC team traveling up to Amherst, Massachusetts,
Wait.
I see a statement opportunity for Don Brown and the Minutemen.
We're not at the what the fuck game yet.
Right.
No, I'm
You're a little
playing
early
this
here.
because they're playing on the road. They're gonna they're gonna have playoff aspirations. NC Nick's doing videos talking about Eli Drinkowitz and the Tigers are gonna be going to the playoffs. Well, guess what? Not so fast.
Wait,
Because
why did Missouri agree to this game?
the last time an SEC, the only time an SEC team played at UMass, they snuck by, and that was Dan Mullen and Mississippi State. Snuck by 12 points, right? And it was a close game in the fourth because I remember watching it with Andy Isabella and Mark Whipple at the helm for UMass. Well, this is the one. Don Brown's had this one circled. And top 10 Missouri is going to come into the McGurk and catch an L. Let's fucking go. This program, and this is going to start. UMass is going to join the MAC next year. And they're going to start dominating the MAC with Don Brown. Dominating, right?
Dominating. I see what you did there.
That's what's going to happen. Give me the Minutemen. Northeast football's back. Shout out to Joe Hackney. Patty C. This is where we make a statement. Because not only does look, Missouri lost at Boston College in Chestnut Hill 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They host Boston College this year. They lose there and they lose here. They can't handle the Northeast.
Boston. Wait, is there anything like I guess Indiana had a hard time with Boston last night in the NBA playoffs? Maybe Missouri, which is what, a border state? Maybe the Midwest just can't handle the Northeast. That's what it comes down to.
It doesn't sound like you guys are excited. I sold it, man. But
we are selling the shit out of this game.
Hey, I give Missouri credit for traveling up there because the other SEC teams wouldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, no. Credit or
I wish it was in November though. It would be cold as fuck.
Yeah.
Them here, it's like
Still
gosh,
could be.
Yeah.
At the
I
same
feel
time, we
like-
always complain we don't want SEC teams playing Massachusetts in November.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
not,
true.
What do you mean? I do.
In Massachusetts.
Yeah, in
man.
Massachusetts. We don't want
But-
them playing UMass, but we want them.
Well, let's give
if
them
you're going to
credit.
play a road game.
Going on the road at all to Massachusetts. Well done, Missouri.
So this is our Lou Holtz what the fuck game of the week moment here. Patty C, you're on the clock.
Well, I don't get the brain man cold,
mean,
but
I'm
they're
just-
counting down 7, 6, 5.
Looking down the list.
We gotta go quick. We gotta go
All right.
quick.
We're gonna go Oregon State at Nevada. Whatever.
We're gonna stay at Nevada.
No, I'm just picking a shitty game. Toledo at Buffalo. It's a conference game, but it won't be close. There you go. 11-3 at 3-9.
All right.
Look, you're rushing me. This is what you're gonna get. Sorry, I should have prepped up for it.
Well, I
Tol-
mean, there's really no more like FCS versus FBS and everything.
I actually I find there's one that's kind of stands out to me of weird, but we'll get to it in a second. But Nick, your thoughts on your Lou Holtz what the fuck game of the week?
So my game is so last week I think you picked Army at Tulsa. This week I'm gonna go UAB at Army.
That was mine.
It's just a random boring.
That was
game.
mine. That was mine. Where
Well,
it just didn't
UAB
make
was pretty good a few years ago, and so was
Trent Dilfer
Army.
is shit though.
Yeah, they are.
We'll see if he does it this year. But yeah, that was mine just because they don't really have a history of playing each other. And then okay, so mine will then pivot to North Texas at Florida Atlantic. Just doesn't make. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
not very
weird.
interesting.
Top FCS game of the week, Patty C. Where are you going?
Let's go with let's do it. Youngstown Straight traveling to South Dakota State.
Hey, two playoff
At
teams.
the Dyke House.
Nobody goes into the Dyke House.
Maybe the Penguins can go into the Dyke House and get it done against the Rabbits, Jackrabbits. I don't know. They'll probably get their ass kicked, but it's two good teams.
Yeah. NC Nick, where are you going with your FCS game of the week?
Chattanooga Furman. They played twice last year, including once in the second round of the playoffs. Great game. I think Chattanooga exact some revenge this year.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I'll take you to Carbondale, Illinois, where North Dakota State's taking on the Salukis. Don't let the dogs get hot, says Stone Labanowitz. They have a history of winning big games at home in Carbondale. Watch out, Bison. All right, folks, we are the College Football Experience. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN, youtube.com/the College Experience. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. You can watch us. Patty C's on Twitter at Patty C831. NC Nick's on Twitter at NC__NICK. I'm on Twitter at the Colby D. We are just getting started, as obviously we're previewing all 134 college football teams. Go check out the other 7 weeks of previews, because yes, we did have a week 0 preview. And check out the FCS College Football Experience, as well as the Stadium Heads podcast. Myself, Michael Barker, talking college football stadiums and everything that makes college football great. Go check it out. Until next time, folks, this is the College Football Experience. Don't forget Sports Gambling Podcast coming up next. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot.